business is adoption of the minutes from our May 28th meeting. Moved by Councillor Pietrangelo, seconded by Councillor Morocco. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. Disclosures of pecuniary interest. Councillor Carrio.
Thank you, Worship. On report number RC 2013-11, I'm sorry, 03, Victoria Center BIA Law Enforcement. Some of my establishments are in the report, and I'm going to declare conflict.
Okay, we saw that big picture of Remington's.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, it has. We got that, Mr. Clerk?
Were there no other banners around it?
There were, yeah. Any other disclosures of pecuniary interest? All right, seeing none, we'll move along. On to report section of tonight's council meeting. First is report CD 2013-03, which is a Victoria Centre BIA bylaw enforcement. And I'd ask our city clerk, Mr. Arafita, if you would do this report.
Thank you, Your Worship. This report is about enforcement in the Victoria Centre BIA area. As the report outlines, the BIA, through their board, have asked for a zero tolerance on enforcement. Our practice is related to a complaint. When we receive a complaint, we take action. But also, we also take what I consider to be a common sense approach. And ultimately, I take direction through the council as opposed to the Victoria Centre BIA. So the point of this report is to get clarification from council, also to show you what some of the issues are, get direction from you. The Victoria Centre BIA was invited to attend. They're not in attendance, unfortunately, but we do have our manager of bylaw enforcement, Mr. Franco Piscitelli, and Nick Pietrangelo, who is one of our bylaw services officers, and Nick is also our weekend summer guy, so he would be the officer who would deal with a lot of these issues. So as I outlined in the report, the issues surround basically about 5 things: sandwich boards, merchandise, patios or sidewalk cafes as we call them, banners on those patios, and commercial parking lots. And then, so I'll go through just some of the photos. Some of them are already in your report, but I'd just like to highlight them to give a better illustration of the situation and of the issues.
Yes, Councillor Townsend.
Were the chairman and any other representatives, were they specifically invited
Yes.
to be here?
Yes.
They were.
And I'm a little disappointed that they're not here. Mr. Marcone, who's been the one who's been very much pushing these issues, I personally invited him. Sue McDowell, who's the executive director, who obviously is the staff person, she was copied on the email. I know Sue's been on vacation. And I mean, I should say we do work well with them. I think there's a little bit of maybe a misinterpretation as far as what our authority is. And, you know, I think this is, we will continue to work with them, but we have to sort of establish the rules of the game, if you will.
Mr. Conflict and myself were at the meeting, as were you. And, you know, there were some very strong feelings about the situation. And as I read this report, it's very it's not the same flavor that I was hearing out of the meeting, where they wanted zero tolerance, as you mentioned in your report. And I think that this is important enough. We have a meeting in 2 weeks that I think that, have they seen this report?
Oh yeah, I emailed them the report. I've met with them a series of times. Most recently, I met with Mr. Marcone and Mr. Dristakos about 2 weeks ago, and I explained to them, I said, I appreciate where you guys are coming from, but ultimately I take direction from council, and therefore I'm preparing a report that will go to council. They were aware of that. And last week, when you received your council agendas, the report was emailed to Mr. Marcone and Ms. McDowell, and I clearly said, come at 5 o'clock on Tuesday. So.
Yeah. Well, I think we should defer this until they come here specifically to address this, because this report is basically suggesting on a complaint basis. At the meeting, they were saying they want zero tolerance, they want it all cleaned up. So I think if we pass this, or if we go zero tolerance, we could hear from some of the other people. You know, I think there's got to be some flexibility with respect to this.
Yeah, I completely agree, and that's what I've tried to impress upon them, that, you know, there's a bit of give and take on this issue. I have concerns that, you know, maybe the general membership of the BIA isn't as in tune with these issues as the board is. Now, that's not out of the ordinary. With a lot of BIAs, the general membership is apathetic. They may not attend any of the board meetings. You'll recall, Councillor Thompson, at the meeting that I did attend and Mr. Piscitelli attended with the BIA, they did indicate that they had sent an email on the sandwich board issue, and that you know, they only received 4 responses. All 4 of the people who responded didn't want to see any sort of restrictions on sandwich boards, although the BIA's official position vis-a-vis our sign bylaw, the process we're going through right now, is that sandwich boards just on the private property, and that's going to be what is forwarded to the planning department when they come back with their report. I would suggest, you know, I can go through this presentation just to outline the issues. I mean, I want to hear feedback from council. I've got the feedback from the Victoria Centre BIA. I know where they stand, or some of them stand, on these issues, but I just would like to get, you know, council's feedback, because what's going to happen is tomorrow Mr. Marcone's going to email me and say, why aren't you enforcing anything? And to me, right now, there aren't enforceable issues in the Victoria Centre BIA based on our current practices. And I'd like to outline those to council and explain that.
Okay, I think I'll suggest we go through the report for council's information, and then we'll see. I recall the sandwich boards in the downtown area. In fact, I specifically made the motion because there was a restriction with the problems downtown and getting people to come down and giving the opportunity for people to do business. If a sandwich board is going to help, that's why it was approved. I think Victoria Centre is a different situation. So let's hear the presentation, but I think the recommendations in here don't really reflect the feeling and what I was getting out of the meeting. They want zero tolerance.
Well, and in fairness, these are my recommendations as a staff person, what I feel is appropriate. However, the first recommendation is basically getting council's direction on some of these points, as far as how do you want to see us enforced? Do you want us to take a zero tolerance as per the Victoria Centre BIA, which we don't have a problem with, or do you want to take more of a incremental, common sense business approach? You know, but we'll go through the presentation, and then.
Well, that's why I was hoping somebody would be here to get the reaction, because
Me too.
If we're talking about on a complaint basis or having some tolerance, that's not the information that I got out of the meeting. So we get a problem here we're going to have to deal with.
I'm just wondering if it's possible they've got the time mixed up, thinking it's
No.
at 7?
No, 5 o'clock. It's in my email.
Okay, all right, well, let's continue on.
Well, just to talk about the sandwich boards, and Councillor Thompson, that was a good segue. Back around 2009, you may recall, a lot of the revitalization efforts were going on downtown. Downtown, similar to Victoria Centre, a lot of the buildings are right up to the property line. I mean, my bylaw guys used to be very vigilant at getting rid of sandwich boards on the city sidewalk. I think, Wayne, you nicknamed one of our officers John Wayne Allen because he was so good at that. You know, and then the direction we received at the time was that in downtown, you know, it makes sense to have these sandwich boards. It fits in with the theme of downtown, and as long as they're located against the building face, that they're not impeding pedestrian traffic, then they should be tolerated. The direction that bylaw received from senior staff was that if we were going to do that in downtown, we should apply the same standards in Victoria Centre. So what you have in Victoria Centre, here's a perfect example where you got basically 3 sandwich boards, which may or may not advertise the businesses within, or at least the service within the business within. These are not impeding any pedestrian traffic. They're right against the building. And so if my bylaw officers are in the area, we wouldn't take action on that unless, say, this sandwich board was out here. Now, what the BIA is saying is that they would like to see any sort of sandwich board that even juts out into the sidewalk removed. So once again, there's another example where you see right against the side of the building, you see some pedestrians, so you get an idea of the scale in that situation. Similarly, here's a sandwich board that it isn't against the side of the building. It's against one of our light poles advertising the parking lot. And let me say, I didn't take all of these pictures. It was probably our summer bylaw student who probably doesn't know who owns what. But the fact of the matter is, even though this sign isn't against the building face, we don't see it obtrusive, and we would not remove this sign on a patrol. Like, we consider that to be understandable. It's advertising a business, and it's a legal commercial parking lot as far as we know. And so we wouldn't take action on that. Now, if we go with what the Victoria Centre BIA is proposing, then that sign would be fair game. We would ask the operator to move it onto private property, or we would remove it ourselves. Similar example, I think this is the sandwich board for the tattoo parlor on Center Street. This one you see is getting close to the roadway, obviously less, almost no private property here. So that would be an example where, the BIA will want that removed. We currently wouldn't remove that just based on the fact it's not impeding traffic. So that's really the sandwich board issue in a nutshell. And we don't really, enforcing a zero tolerance on the sandwich boards is easy for us. Like I said, we'll ask operator to move it. They don't move it. We can easily pick it up and throw it in a truck. I mean, it's a portable sign, so that's easy from an enforcement point of view. Where we're going to have a little more difficulty is on the issue of merchandise. And I fully appreciate that that's not aesthetically pleasing. However, it's arguably partly on private property, partly on public property. We'd be less likely to take somebody's clothes rack. We would ask them to comply, but there's going to be obviously a process involved where we provide some notice. We tell the people to remove the thing from the city sidewalk. So that may not happen overnight. Similarly, I mean, you get this situation where they may post things on the wall. Once again, it's hard to really tell what is public and what's private property here. Having said that, there's no impediment to pedestrians walking down the sidewalk. I mean, Center Street's a little less busy than Victoria Centre, which tends to get busy, especially during the summertime. So there's tons of examples of this. I mean, I agree. I don't think that looks nice. I don't think it's very attractive, but these are more beautification issues, and enforcement shouldn't lead to beautification. The businesses within the BIA should buy into beautification and realize that, having a bunch of laundry bins out on the sidewalk or against the building isn't necessarily attracting business or helping business. Having said that, those are small business people. They're trying to show their wares. They're trying to attract people, and they feel that by having the merchandise outside, that it's helpful. Once again, this is an especially problematic property at the corner of Center Street and Victoria, where the city, and if there's any private property here, we'd have to get a survey. So these things aren't necessarily easily solved overnight or easily removed. So there'd be a process involved. If the direction from council is get all merchandise off the sidewalk or out, any merchandise outdoors that is partly on public property off. Where this becomes a little bit problematic is that on the opposite side of the street, you're familiar with this property, which always has your clothing racks outside, not visually appealing, not aesthetically pleasing, but this is definitely on private property. Whenever it's even strayed an inch towards the sidewalk, we've asked them to move it, they've complied, or my guys have even pushed the racks back. But if we go zero tolerance, what's going to happen is the properties on the east side of the street are going to have to remove their merchandise, but we can't necessarily go after these properties which are on private property. I mean, ideally, like I said, what would happen is a discussion amongst the BIA members saying that, you know, this doesn't help the aesthetics of the BIA. Can you try to keep this outdoor merchandise to a minimum? The report outlines the sidewalk cafe process. The BIA is saying that they do not want any more, well, they actually don't even want the existing patios, sidewalk cafes that don't comply with our guidelines. In our guidelines, it talks about basically 10 feet or 8 feet between the sidewalk cafe and the roadway. Obviously, there's locations for existing sidewalk cafes that may not be that wide. However, as I outlined in the report, all of our existing sidewalk cafe licenses have been vetted through staff, through the site plan technical committee. These are guidelines, it's not a bylaw. So my suggestion, this is strictly my recommendation, is that you only deal with any future applications and adhere to those guidelines as far as 8 and 10 feet. I think it would be awful onerous on some of the patio owners to have to remove existing parts of existing patios that might not comply with the 8 and 10 feet. As I outlined in the report, my bylaw guys don't get involved in this issue primarily. Site plans through our planning department, so Mr. Hurlovich can comment on that further. When we talk about the patios, the other request from the BIA is that we go zero tolerance on these banners on the railings. Arguably, these banners could be considered signs on a fence as per our sign bylaw. I think that might be a stretch in my opinion, but it is an argument. I haven't found it in the sidewalk cafe guidelines, maybe I just have missed it, where any advertising or anything on the railing is prohibited, but I took a look, maybe Alex can correct me if I'm wrong. You know, once again, most of these banners, I mean, they're throughout the city, not necessarily just Victoria Center, but they usually advertise the business within. They're not third-party advertising. And I would arguably say, and I'm not just saying that because of that particular establishment, that that is actually fairly aesthetically pleasing. I don't see anything wrong with that or with that ownership regardless. You know, so it comes down to, do you as council want to direct staff to enforce this or take action on these banners on the railings? I would suggest that's maybe the least of the issues when it comes to aesthetics. Like I said, as far as sandwich boards, those are easy. If you direct us not to have any of them at all on the public sidewalk, we can take care of that. Merchandise, similar, although that process may take longer to get compliance. The only other issue is the commercial parking lots, and as I recommend in the report, staff has talked internally and we agree that we have to do a bit of a review of the existing parking lots throughout the city, but we'll start with Victoria Center to make sure all of those parking lots are in compliance vis-a-vis our commercial parking section of the licensing bylaw. So once again, my staff is prepared to do anything that we're directed to when it comes down to enforcement. We do feel that using enforcement for beautification is not the right way to go. However, we are willing to take any direction that council deems is appropriate under the circumstances, balancing the interests of the small business person with the BIA's efforts for greater beautification. So I'll answer any questions.
Okay, do we have some questions from council or comments on the report?
Could you put the Applebee's thing up there when we're talking?
Give you some free advertising.
Councillor Thompson, did you? Yes, Councillor Thompson?
Well, I'm no further ahead now than when I was at the start. If you go to the letter that was received, and the BIA is responsible for their own destiny. Each one has to take into consideration what is good for their particular area. The motion was to strictly enforce the current bylaws on signage, merchandise, etc., carried unanimously at the time. I still think that there is some flexibility with respect to this issue, and I think we have to have representation to say, like, this doesn't bother me. I think it's tastefully done. I think the other one is, we saw, there might be some other ones that aren't. But can you pick and choose? I don't like the bins out on the sidewalk. That's certainly doesn't. They're going to do a huge investment there as a BIA to beautify that whole area within the next year, probably a lot of it over the winter. So I think when that happens, maybe the strictness of the bylaw would certainly kick in. But I have trouble right now. I'd like some flexibility in this, but I don't want to take that responsibility. We were both at the meeting, and I'd like somebody to say, this is what we want out, and this is what we don't, that doesn't bother us too much. So that's 2 weeks before the season really kicks off, so I would move we defer it and either have somebody here or some comments with respect to this specific report, because we haven't had that. So.
Well, let me add to that. I did get a correspondence here from Eric Marcone.
Yes.
I was asking him if he was on his way or the status. He said he wasn't aware that he should be here, and his thoughts were he thought pretty straightforward, that they want the existing guidelines and bylaws to be enforced regarding patios, sandwich boards, and merchandising displays. So that's suggestion from Eric Marcone from the. Council.
Now on this, and this wouldn't apply to the other BIA?
No, I
Why
mean,
wouldn't we do one that's generic for everybody?
Well, the sign bylaw is premised on the fact that in different areas of the city, you have kind of different themes, you have different kinds of signs. Obviously, Fallsview can handle while downtown has the properties that have less private property. So that's why that's the case. I mean, merchandise on the street, I mean, if it's on our property, we can get rid of it. I mean, it's pretty well simple as that. But we've been fairly tolerant. We haven't gone and done, surveys as far as, or gone after somebody who's, kind of sticking their nose out onto the sidewalk, as long as traffic can flow, and that's been the case.
Wouldn't it be simpler though if each BIA had their own internal bylaws where they went around each other and said, listen, you're not playing the game with the rest of us? Can you get these things off the street? Wouldn't that be a little simpler than?
To your point, Councillor Maves, I would agree with you in the sense that if it's a BIA buy-in where everybody says, yeah, these are the rules within our BIA for beautification, and everybody follows through, that'd be great. And that's, I think, what Victoria Centre wants to do. But Victoria Centre also has a few bad actors, and I'm not commenting on anybody specifically in any of these photos, but they do have people that they can't sort of bring on side, and they're frustrated, and I appreciate their frustration. So they turn to bylaw, hoping that that will smarten some of the people up and have them take a little more care in their property. I agree with Councillor Thompson that hopefully the streetscape, the improvements of the public realm that are being proposed, that will maybe organically lead to some people taking a little more pride and maybe realizing that that's not an ideal standard.
No, I'm just wondering if we shouldn't just pass one bylaw for all of the BIAs, simply because we could have another BIA here at next meeting and asking for the same thing.
Well, currently we apply the same rules in every BIA. So like I said, if you're walking down Queen Street and somebody has something like that and it's not impeding the public passage, we won't take
So
action.
basically, it is the same for all. Thank you.
This is the only place that there's a problem like that.
This is the only place.
Exactly, as they call them, choke points, where there's just too much congestion. It forces people onto the road to get around a sign. That's a danger problem. Queen Street, we don't have the same kind of pedestrian volume, I'd say. So we've got a motion on the floor, seconded to accept the recommendation.
There is no recommendation in the recommendation from the clerk.
Oh.
He's asking for, I got the impression from the report, reading it, that he wanted to have some flexibility with respect to this. But the specifics in the recommendation just say, give us some direction.
Correct. I mean, on the issue of the commercial parking lots, we're going to start taking action. Carl and I will figure out a process and we will go get compliance. Like I said, it's my personal recommendation as a staff person that I don't think it's appropriate to go after any of these existing sidewalk cafes that have gone through the process and have been approved and force any of those operators to have to remove half of their sidewalk cafe patio. But that's contrary to what the Victoria Centre BIA wants. But my suggestion is, okay, any future applications to more stringently follow those guidelines. Once again, I mean, we will take the direction from council. I think the approach we have taken to date has been a common sense approach. It's been a business-friendly approach, and it's been a pedestrian-friendly approach. But I agree with the BIA. I mean, some of this doesn't look nice. It looks ugly, it looks cheap, it looks a little bit tawdry, but we don't enforce, aesthetics for the most part.
Yes, Councillor Gates.
I just want to be clear. So part of the Victoria BIA wants to get rid of patios, and I'll use Antigua as an example, because I go there and sit outside. That's not what they want.
No, no, I don't think they want to touch the existing.
Well, the only reason why I'm saying it.
No, that's not true. They do. They think that, and I'm not going to name names, but they think some of the existing patios are not in compliance with the guidelines as far as the 8 feet and the 10 feet. And I mean, that's what the picture's of.
That's how I read it when you presented it. That's why I thought I'd ask again.
So clearly,
that looks like Antigua.
Clearly, there's not 8 or 10 feet here. I mean, I don't know what there is, maybe 3 feet? So
well, my point is, I don't know about my fellow councillors, but a lot of people like to actually sit out there on the patio and have a beer or pizza or whatever they like to enjoy, whether it be Antigua or the ones that are going down there. I actually think the BIA be hurt themselves for business. So instead of going to Antigua pizza place, they're going to go to a Michelangelo's or another place that they can sit outside. So I think they should revisit that particular request, because I think they're going to hurt their businesses, quite frankly. And I'm not sure that's what they want to do. I think they want to enhance their businesses. To your point, Mayor Diodati, when you said we want people to come to Niagara Falls and spend their money, but right there they'd be losing business for sure, because I enjoy a patio. I know that for sure.
Yeah.
So
I do as well. We go out of our way to look for patios. Well, right, yes, Councillor Maves?
No, I'm just looking at the picture right now. Is it the tree that's causing it not to be? If we remove the tree, are they in compliance?
Now you just opened the door.
Uh-oh.
I mean,
Oh, wait, we've got a comment from Mr. Holman. Do we have some, did you want to jump in on the conversation? Are your shoes okay?
I think in that particular instance, we had a inquiry about that one today. We're going to fill them with some mulch in the short term, and we're going to custom fit some steel plates in the around the tree, at least as an interim measure until we can complete the streetscaping design for the rest of the project. So at least it'll be safe, and we can avoid some of the trip and fall claims that we've been receiving.
no, I was going to say I can see where that could be a danger, especially people with high-heeled shoes or something like that could be a problem.
We've got our Director of Planning would like to weigh in on this one.
Well, the problem with, the comment to strictly adhere to the guidelines is that they are guidelines. They're not law.
Right.
And so it's a general criteria. And so what we've tried to do in the case where this sidewalk's narrow, you can see where the two gentlemen are standing, is provided a wheelchair could get by, a stroller could get by. So ensuring the accessibility for those who have particular impairments, we've tried to make sure that those are accommodated well, trying to accommodate the business needs. We saw a huge rise in the number of sidewalk cafes in this city with the smoking ban inside of restaurants. And that's when we saw a large number of these applications come forward, and those do provide some alternative space, and I believe one of the councillors has identified a great opportunity for people to be able to be outside during the summer weather, enjoying some sunshine and fresh air.
No, I think one of the problems too, though, is if you look at that, you say a stroller or a wheelchair can get through there, that's fine. But sometimes in the summer, these young people in that are walking six wide down the street, and then it all of a sudden becomes almost single file. So I can see where that could be a serious problem.
Okay. Yes, Councillor Morocco.
Your Worship, I'd just like to say I know I second the motion for Councillor Thompson, but I think, going back and forth here, there's a lot of unrest. We've actually got a streetscape coming back, and I think that we'd like to have a look at that. And with the implementation of the streetscape, I think right now it's the best to just defer this, and then we can actually see exactly what's going to be in the design, and then we can have a little bit more input into what really looks good. And I think, as city councilors, as we sit around the table, we want to make sure that our city streets look good. I know we want to work with the BIs also, but I think at this time I'd just like to make a recommendation, if I can ask Councillor Thompson to actually to defer his motion.
Why don't we just before you do that, because we're looking at the 4 recommendations. Number 1 is about parking lot review. That's right.
So
I'm doing them out of order.
time?
Well, here's what the other suggestion. That was number 2. Number 3, they're just suggesting that any future cafe applications adhere to the sidewalk cafe guidelines. So that's future, doesn't affect any of the ones that we saw today. The 4th thing is that the BIA reach out to their members on beautification and aesthetic issues, because it's a fine line between beautification and stimulation for shopping and spending. They got to decide that fine line. The hospital versus. So my suggestion, maybe, what do you think of the idea of Number 2, 3, and 4. Yes, Mr. Clerk, did you want to weigh in?
Yeah, well, I think to Councillor Morocco's suggestion, and it was sort of echoed by Councillor Thompson, I do think that the possibility of beautification, whether it's next year or the following year, does offer an opportunity to take a zero tolerance approach. My recommendation would be status quo for this summer, and then when that comes in, then we take a zero tolerance approach. That would be my recommendation.
Okay,
So in essence, that sort of approve those other 3, as you mentioned, Mr. Mayor, 2, 3, 4, and on number 1, that we take the approach we've been taking for the remainder of this summer, and then, you know, in line with the beautification efforts of the Victoria Centre BIA, next year we'll look at zero tolerance on some of these issues. We'll continue to enforce the things that are impeding public passage.
Almost definitely.
Yeah, we will continue to do what we do currently.
Okay, most definitely. So then I just ask that then the
The
other...
mover, would you agree with that?
Yeah, sure. And let them come back to the next meeting.
Right. We can always change. That's right. We can always tighten it up. Hey, so we do once again have a motion seconded to move the recommendations, and we'll now call the vote. All those in favor? Okay, and with 1 conflict. All right, thank you. On to RC 2013-11, the Gale Center maintenance concerns. I'll ask our Director of Rec and Culture, Kathy Moldenhauer, if you lead us through this report.
Thank you. Last year, staff had presented to Council a comprehensive Gale Center update report that had listed several recommendations to guide direct staff to implement improvements at the center, and also to complete some energy reviews just to look at the energy consumption issues. Tonight's report is to inform Council of the completed studies and the recommendations to date to improve the center's energy efficiencies and overall operation. Staff had hired an independent engineering firm to review the facility operation. Following this review, the firm recommended that a full commissioning of the facility take place, implement staff training, and that an energy audit also be completed. All 3 of the items have now been completed, and in this report are the recommendations from the firm. The firm also looked into some of the mechanical concerns that have been present at the facility, and at this point in time, the firm is recommending that repairs take place as soon as possible. For these repairs to take place, the operation, the facility needs to be shut down for approximately 3 weeks, and the estimated cost of the repairs is approximately $150,000. During the shutdown, we're recommending that it take place in the spring and the summer rather than the fall and the winter season to minimize the impact on our users. At this point in time, we do have ice in 3 of our ice pads, and we recommend that we put ice in at Chippewa Arena. By putting ice in at Chippewa Arena, we can accommodate approximately 55% of our users. Staff are meeting with the spring-summer ice users tomorrow night to go over the schedule, and staff are also contacting other municipalities to see if they do have ice that's available to accommodate our users. We also will be meeting with any of our facility partners to review the report recommendations and to inform them of the required shutdown to implement the repairs. At this point in time, we are recommending that the repairs take place, and again, it's approximate, from mid-July to mid-August.
Question on that?
Thank you. Yes, Councilor Carrier?
Question on that. I was asked to ask this question. Do we need to shut down all pads in order to do the work, or could we stagger the shutdowns on the pads at the Gale Center?
We had looked into that, but at this point in time, we do need to shut down all of the pads because we have to, with the piping that needs to be inspected, that does impact your heating and your cooling and the, for our ice equipment as well. It does impact everything.
Thank you. Okay. Save the rest of my questions till she's finished.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Councilor
No,
Gates?
it's okay, I'll wait till she's done.
Okay.
Want to speak on
Are
it?
you concluded? You have more, I think are you done?
I'm here if anybody has any questions.
She doesn't
You
have
have
any
your
nice
helmet?
pictures.
You have your helmet ready?
Ready.
Okay, good. Yeah, back to you, Councilor Carroll and Councilor Gates.
Well, it's certainly disappointing, I'm sure for all of us, including the staff, that here we are just a short time after we've opened this facility, and we're looking at doing some major repairs or renovations or changes to what's there. The first question I have is, how did we find the consultant, the company that we're using now? How did we find Crosley Engineering, or whoever that is that's helped us with this? How did we find that particular consultant?
We wanted to ensure that we're hiring an independent engineering firm that was not connected
Right.
with this project. So with that, they are Toronto-based. They had no connection to the facility, and that's why we went with them. We'd also heard that they were highly recommended by other municipalities.
But we have no idea whether or not they have any connections to the contractors or the subcontractors that worked on the project to start with. We would have.
To our knowledge, they have no relationship.
They have no
They
relationship?
have no relationship.
Okay. Okay, I'll save my other questions for later.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Gates?
Thanks, Mayor Jim Diodati. I'd like to echo Councilor Carrio's comments. I would think that everybody around this table is extremely disappointed in what the report today. We're talking about a facility for the residents of Niagara Falls that quite frankly should be something that we've been celebrating on something that's really good for the community, bringing in a lot of tourists through hockey tournaments and stuff, and at a cost of $38 million to build, and when you add the interest, you're looking at $65 to $70 million. I have concerns. I raised it a couple weeks ago with the company that was doing the work. They were having quality problems when they were doing the work before. And I raised with some of my fellow councilors before on some of the problems that they've had there with the washrooms, the elevator. It just seems to be, quite frankly, one issue after another with the Gale Center. And I think that the contractor that was awarded the job should be held accountable. And I said a couple weeks ago that we have already okayed that same contractor that did the work now to maybe do our bus terminal at $20 to $25 million. I think we really have to watch this contractor as we go forward. I think I want to get that out. But I think it's also important for maybe some of the residents that are watching at home. It says a consultant report concluded the following. Prior to opening the facility, the building control system has never been fully commissioned or set up to maximize building efficiencies or operations. And I'm going to read a couple of these out, and then maybe staff could explain why that wasn't done, because I think it's important for the residents to know why a contractor wouldn't do that. The second thing that I have why is the building heating system did not take advantage of the heat available from the rink's EcoChill heat rejection system. Again, I think the residents should know. And I think the one that really jumps out of your report, other than obviously it's a 3-year-old building, we're going through this, the piping installed throughout the Gale Center to provide heating, cooling, and ice refrigeration system is in need of repair. And I guess we have to establish at some point in time when that repair actually started, because it's my understanding that it's been going on for a long time. Leaks have developed throughout the system in public spaces, corridors, utility rooms, mechanical spaces. In order to eliminate the leaks, it is recommended that all failed joints be disassembled, if you can imagine, and remade, and all non-leaking joints be inspected and tightened in accordance with the manufacturing, installation, and instructions. So when I read that, it shows that the manufacturer has said this is what you have to do when you install it, and it wasn't followed. And again, I think that it can go on the project manager, and I'm sure other councillors will talk about that. But the reality is, the contractor was paid 30, well, I guess we can argue exactly what he was paid. It was somewhere between $31 and $35 million. These are his responsibility. It talks here, which is surprising, there is 2,600 feet of heat pump piping and 2,000 feet of heating water piping and approximately 300 joints. Repairs are required as soon as possible, an estimated cost of $150. It's faulty work. And we have to do everything we can to go after the contractor, the subcontractor, because there is no way that I believe that the taxpayers that are already on the hook for the millions and millions of dollars for the Gale Center should be on the hook for this. But I would like an explanation on why some of this stuff wasn't done by either the contractor or followed up by our city. Thank you.
Before we start, can I ask a question pertaining to it?
Yeah, sure, Councillor.
I was going to ask in the recommendations that we add another clause that all legal options be explored to rectify the problems. And my only question would be to the city solicitor, if the rest of the council agrees that that's what we should be considering, then should we be answering some of the questions that we have in public at this meeting, or should we be looking into our legal options before we discuss the details at an open council meeting? That would be my question to the lawyer.
I would certainly recommend we explore all our legal options. From the point of view of the lawyer in charge of a case, you always want as little, your opponent to know as little as possible how your client is thinking as you can get away with. That's somewhat difficult when your client is a public authority such as a municipal council, but I would recommend that council try to, while expressing their concern, try to steer away from making any attribution of blame to any particular individuals or any particular comments as to strategy as to how we would go about making a recovery. But certainly a direction to pursue every legal avenue available would be something that would be greatly appreciated from my point of view.
I would just not like to see, give anybody the opportunity that we would prejudice our case if we're going to look at all of our legal options by having the details discussed in an open council meeting. We all know that everyone is upset, and we all know that we have a problem. We all know that we want to talk about it, but if there's a chance that it could prejudice our case, I would just like us to be careful until we find out whether we do have a case.
Okay, fair. Councillor Gates has the floor.
Well, I'm fine with that.
Okay, yes, Councillor Iononi?
Thank you. Then don't give us a public report. I mean, I don't know who else listened to the radio today, but we were all over it. We were a headlining story in Bullet News. Don't give us a report if you don't want us to talk about it in public. There's your first and foremost. Second of all, I'm not disappointed. I am so pissed off, it's beyond belief. The residents now are going to have to pay for a mistake made by someone blameless. I think he was talking about me when he said don't name names because, I'm apt to shoot my mouth off. So I will say this. There were questions after questions after questions after questions asked when that arena was being built. Council runs a very fine line, I'll call it the Walenda wire, on micromanaging and leading. You ask too many questions, you're accused of micromanaging. You don't ask enough questions, then we weren't responsible enough to follow through. But to the residents who are watching this, who listen to the news, read Bullet Media, or are going to read the review tomorrow, for the problems that were taking place at the Gale Center right now, not one amount of problems at the Gale Center was brought to this council's attention. We were never informed that there were problems, which we now know existed for quite some time, and we knew existed before the Gale Center was finished. This council didn't have a chance to change that direction, didn't have a chance to put in the corrections when it did, because we were never informed. I often stand here and say how ticked off I am that council isn't given all the information. So I will just say this, because we're walking this fine legal line. Don't give us a report if you don't want us to talk about it. Should have kept it in camera and kept it legal. But Councillor Gates highlighted that we're using these same people now to build another project. If I had had this information before me 4 months ago, I would not have voted to have the same people do our bus station, our transit station that I did. Like this, my vote would have totally gone an entirely different way. I'd have asked you, why were they before us? So to me, this is a little bit too late. It was easier done that way, and it's before us now. But I'm going to say, if we have problems with the bus maintenance center, let's just see, council passed that contractor totally unaware of the problems that existed before it came towards us. And that pisses me off to no end. Just so that I should say ticked off, I apologize. Ticks me off to no end. Because really, I think I feel like my vote was manipulated. I'd have voted entirely different, asked different questions standing here, and would have not have supported the recommendations that came to us from staff. That said, we need to be on them like flies on rice now. There's nothing they can do, and there should not be a concern that does not come to this council from here on out. And if that's micromanaging, too damn bad, get over it.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor. Do we have any other comments of council? Yes, Councillor Morocco.
I'll just make a comment to let the public know that there isn't one person that's sitting around this table. It might be quiet right now, but we weren't quiet in the back room when we actually reviewed some of these comments. And I have to say that you could have probably peeled us all off the ceiling with some of the things that came back. Because I look at the numbers and I know that we can't go back. We have to move forward. And I know that staff is bringing this forward, and I appreciate the fact that staff is now looking diligently as they possibly can to make sure that these corrections are done. But still, it's still unbelievable that we're going to probably be $500,000 in the hole by the time we've lost the utility loss, the high bills of $87,000, $100,000 for a consultant, moving the ice at Chippewa. This is huge, and I'm just somewhat surprised in a way that it's taken 2.5 years. But then again, I'm glad that we've caught it, and we're going to correct it. But it's a huge cost, and I think that the question I had in the back is, how do we go forward without this happening again? And as our CAO indicated, that we will have all buildings will have a commissioning factor put on them as clause. So it is a shock to all of us that sit around the table where we are with this, and it is quite upsetting. So anyway, I'm glad that we're going to figure this out and get it worked out. But I have to say, as Councillor Iannone indicated, we really have to be on the rest of these contractors like no tomorrow. This will be their worst nightmare. Anyway, thank you.
I think you're right. Our CAO pointed out best when he suggested that by commissioning our buildings, we're going to get to these problems before they become major problems. Especially what impressed me here is the fact that staff, there were a lot of symptoms, and they followed the symptoms back to identify the problems, and then they came back with greater efficiencies. So with a further investment, we're going to be able to have a number of efficiencies addressed with a payback of less than 2.5 years, and then going forward, there'll be savings to the community. So we took a lemon, we made lemonade. But you're right, this should never happen again, and I believe with having commissioning of our buildings going forward, that certainly will mitigate and minimize any of those kinds of issues going forward. Councillor Mapes.
Yes, Your Worship. I agree with Councillor Carrier when he says all legal options should be explored. We should put that in as a number 4. I think this work has to be done. So if I can make the motion that we pass all those 3, including that all legal options should be explored, I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. So you were moving 1, 2, 3, and 4 being that we explore all legal options available to us.
That's correct.
Okay?
I think Vic.
Yeah, I've got Vic. Yes, Councillor Pietrangelo. Councillor Vic Pietrangelo.
Thank you, Worship. I guess through you to our CAO or even to our city solicitor, Mr. Beeman, I was just hoping one of you would stand up and say that the city is at this point looking into legal action.
Well, through you, Mr. Mayor, I can certainly reassure you that that's what we are going to be doing. And perhaps while I'm up, I'll just briefly explain part of the process just for those members of the public when we're talking about the commissioning process.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And just to clarify it, there was a decision made, and not by anybody in this room, several years ago, dealing with the commissioning of the Gale Center. And a decision was made at that point not to carry out the commissioning process. Now, What that meant is that all of the equipment that was installed was not tested at the time prior to opening, and there wasn't proper systems checks and staff training that was done. After the arena opened, as the first year of operation went on, these problems or symptoms became visible, and that's when we started to investigate it and have ended us where we are today. We're here saying to council, and back to the new bus transit facility, we had a report here a couple weeks ago before council that indicated that part of that process for that new building will include a commissioning process. So council has already approved that for the new building, and it's our belief as a staff that that process should have been carried out for the Gale Center, and if that had have happened, we probably wouldn't be here today having that discussion. So just for a little bit of background for members of the public so they understand that process, but we will be fully exploring all legal options with respect to where we stand today and how we're going to resolve this.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Councillor Carrier, or Peter Angelo, you still have the floor?
Yep.
And then Carrier.
Thanks, Your Worship, and I'm happy to hear Mr. Todd sort of explain the commissioning process and say that the recommendation going forward is to commission all new city facilities. I think one of the things that's unfortunate is that council didn't get the option to be informed or even vote on whether or not we were going to commission the building. The decision was made by someone other than us, but yet in the end we're the ones that are basically wearing this because we didn't give the building a test drive. The other thing I wanted to mention, Your Worship, was on the building there was a 1-year warranty, and my understanding, I mean, even when you go shopping for anything, you can buy extra warranty. I think on the new bus building we'd be looking at a $300,000 price tag if we wanted to add extra insurance for 1 year. We could have bought extra insurance on this building, I mean, but again, the point I'm going to make is that it was never an option that was presented to council. So by not coming to council, not presenting us with the option, and I know I'm looking at Mr. Todd, but I don't mean him specifically, but by not being given that option, Your Worship, again, we're kind of left out of the process, but in the end, we're the ones that are wearing it. So it'd be better if these decisions were brought to us. Your Worship, I know last year, and even the year prior to that, for months and months and months and months, and probably more months after that, I was asking for an update report on the Gale Center. Your Worship, it took almost 2 years for us to get a report telling us what everyone around the table knew is that the Gale Center was severely over budget. I mean, that took almost 2 years. Now we're almost 3 years into this, and we're finally getting a report telling us what I feel has been known for a long time, is that there's a lot of deficiencies in the building. And again, Your Worship, it's difficult to fix problems if we're not being told that there's problems. So when people know that there's problems and it's not being brought to council, we don't get the opportunity to fix them. And that's one of the biggest things that I find frustrating in this whole process.
Yep. Mr. CAO?
If I could, just to respond to a couple of things, and the councillor is quite right that those decisions on those issues were not brought to council. To the best of our knowledge, were not brought to council at the time. And again, I'm only piecing that together because I wasn't here at the time, and neither was Mrs. Moldenhauer, and we're just piecing that together. So what we're doing, and again with the new bus facility, we are bringing those decision points to council. With respect to the ongoing deficiencies of the Gale Center, those deficiencies have been tracked, and Ms. Moldenhauer continues to work to get those deficiencies fixed. So there is a deficiency list that will continue to be the responsibility of the contractor, and we're working through those. And I can tell you that some of the deficiencies that we're on, that are the issue of the bigger expenditure tonight, were identified very early on, but because of the magnitude of the problem, we never got to the point where we identified the root of the problem, which has landed us here today. So it's not that those deficiencies were not identified, it's just that we didn't comprehend or couldn't determine how to completely correct that problem. That led us to engaging third-party external engineering help that zeroed in and were able to say, here's where your problem is, and that's where we are today with that cost of about $100,000. So, that's what we're going to try to rectify now, and again, taking legal options to do that. We will need to get the work done regardless, but independent of that, we'll be pursuing our legal options as well.
Councillor? Good. Okay. Councillor Carrier and then Iannoni.
Your worship, I have a question on recommendation number 1. That staff complete the tender process for the required maintenance project and award the contract to the lowest qualified bidder. Are you going to come back to us? Or is anyone open to bid this? Is the company that did the work open to bid this? Is there any exclusions in the bidding process?
If I may, to answer the first part, if it's over the 100,000 mark, we'd be reporting back, which it in all likelihood will be. It would be our position that the engineering firm that identified the work will be the one putting the specifications together and be assisting us in that tendering process. So they will be the ones that will ensure that the people carrying out the repairs are fully qualified to do it. It will not be the people that did the work in the first place.
Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Iannoni and Thompson.
Okay, but we are doing another project with the people who did the work in the first place again. And I guess what I'd like to see happen from here on out is if you're going to bring us a report, you just highlighted that these efficiencies had been identified quite some time ago. And it was before we voted on the bus maintenance report that was before us. Council should have been told that there were problems with parties in the bus maintenance report that we passed, and that those problems were going to be coming to council in a number of months to be dealt with. Because I will guarantee you, Mr. Todd, that the vote around the table wouldn't have been the same. So perhaps go in a go-forward positive method. Maybe if you have people that we're going to potentially sue in the future or enter into legal action with, maybe council should know that before we vote on a report that includes those same players. Because it really wasn't fair to any one of us who voted around this table to vote that uninformed.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor. And I just want to provide one clarification. The company that performed the work was a subcontractor of the general contractor.
That's not what I'm talking about, you know
Well,
that.
I'm just trying to clarify the situation. So
We
the
can
company
clarify
that's
it more.
Oh, we've got the floor right here. He's
The company
answering.
that is the general contractor for the bus facility is in fact the same general contractor. The company that carried out the work that we're talking about was a subcontractor of that general contractor. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Councillor?
But the general contractor and the project manager are both the same.
Yes.
That is correct, they are.
I would have vastly voted different had I known that. And I 14 years I've been standing here saying, just give me all the information and I'll vote informed. I'm going to tell the public right now, I did not vote informed for that bus maintenance building. And just so that everybody knows, I really think that that was manipulated. I think we should have had all the information, and we should have known the parties that were going to be involved in tonight's discussion were involved then, because the discussion would have been vastly different.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson?
Well, the question is, we're going to call tenders to rectify the problem. We're pursuing legal action. Are we going to approach people who did the work to see if they're going to come back, because it was within the warranty period that we knew that there were problems, to ask them to come back and rectify it at their cost? Is that not the approach that we should be taking initially?
No, through you, Mr. Mayor, we're going to explore all of that, so there'll be a process. So definitely we'd be taking that approach, and if that approach
So that
fails...
should be a recommendation then, shouldn't it, rather than calling a tender?
Well, that tender will be called, but as I say, that'll be part of the process that we work through to get to that point. But if you want to add some wording there, that I think we know what the direction is, and we'll be exploring that prior to that step. But
I'd like to see something in the motion that says, through our staff, that we make the appropriate people aware of the problem and the time frame on which we knew it was a problem, and ask them to come back to rectify it.
Okay, so Council, you're suggesting, do we have a motion on the floor yet, Mr. Clerk? We do? That we, who made the motion?
I made the motion.
Okay,
If you
so,
want to make that number 5, that's fine with me.
okay, all right, so then maybe we add number 5, Councillor Maves, that staff start by approaching the original contractor to see if at their cost they would like to rectify the deficiencies. And then, pardon me? I agree with you. So why don't we make that number 1? Exactly.
Gentlemen,
Yes?
if I might, sorry, that is always part of the legal process. Okay, you're just, you're just taking, really, a Canadian judge is not going to be thrilled with anybody who shows up pounding the table and want to sue this guy's buns off if
Right.
you haven't at least had a chat with him before you got there.
Yep. What's that? Yeah, that's fine, but we're going to put it in the motion so it's clear. And you're right. And this way we know there's no ambiguity around the direction of the council. We're going to give the contractor the first chance to fix their mistake, and then we'll do whatever we need to do to fix it on our own after that. Okay, so we've got 5 recommendations, moved by Councillor Maves, seconded by Councillor Iannoni. Okay, if there's no other comments, we'll call the vote. All those in favor? In favor? Yes? Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, moving along to our final report before we get into our regular portion of the meeting is Report F 2013-25, our BlackBerry and cell phone update. I would ask our Director of Finance, Mr. Harrison, if you would address this report.
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. During the budget process, we were asked to report back on BlackBerries and cell phones that are used by our staff. And the report in front of you outlines the use of these tools, provides details on what departments utilize these tools. Staff have a rigorous approval process for the use of these tools, both internally in the department and then both through IS and finance. Staff are of the belief that the BlackBerries that are in use are necessary and vital communication tools in today's day and age to enhance customer service. So be welcome to take any questions.
Councillor Carrio?
Well, the report's not exactly what I thought we would get, but we'll work with it. The question I have is, what's the criteria? I understand in the report it says that the mobile phone program includes BlackBerries and cell phones, or should I say staff. The systems are issued at the direction or the discretion of the department director. I guess my question is, what's the criteria or the policy regarding the issuance of BlackBerries or cell phones or computers? What's the criteria? And is it the same for all directors? Like, is it you have to be on call? Is it you have to, like, I'm assuming that anyone that works 9 to 5 at City Hall doesn't have a BlackBerry or a laptop to take home or a cell. That's where I'm going. What's the criteria for issuing of these devices, considering the cost of the taxpayer?
The criteria is basically at the discretion of the department head. The department head makes a request based on the operational needs of his or her own departments and makes that case to the IS department. The IS department and finance are merged now. We would review that and then say yes or no. There are criteria, obviously, of being on call, being able to be communicated with 24/7. There are some staff members that do work in City Hall that have BlackBerries, senior staff among them, but then there is an expectation that you would be available on call, so to speak, for answers. And that's certainly... Well,
Sorry, we're just squeaking the door over there.
So there are circumstances. It is an internal process, and it is a business tool that we're all using. There is not a specific policy that outlines exactly. There isn't a criteria. It's at the discretion of the department head.
Yes, Mr. CAO?
And just to further that, if you look at the list, our two big, what you'd call just your operational departments, fire and municipal works, where people are at various locations out in the field, different stations, emergency responses, they're the biggest users. A lot of the other ones, if you will, there's a good number within those departments that do play a role in our emergency management process. So there would be individuals that you may not typically think are, they may be people that are in the office a lot, but on that emergency call-out list, if there is an emergency, they're part of that grouping. So they may be a backup to me, or they may be a backup to the clerk, and that number is quite extensive, and that's part of our whole emergency planning process. So that technology in their hands is certainly something that you may not use that often, but it's something that needs to be there, because if I'm unavailable, I have to ensure that my backup has the proper technology as well. Or if I'm away, my backup needs to have that technology. So in some of those, like where you see 2 or 3 people in a department, it typically would be the director and perhaps his second in command or her second command, and maybe the executive secretary or somebody that are in that loop where they're the people that you're going to go to if you can't get me or can't get the next person. So like for example, in my area, it's myself and Dale Morton. We're both part of that emergency management group. So if I'm not available, it would go to Jeff or Todd or Dean, and Dale is part of that emergency management system where there's an emergency call-out. So the numbers of Blackberries will, they maybe seem skewed in some of the smaller departments. That's part of the reason they're there. The bigger operating departments are simply that these are supervisors, people out in the field, captains and platoon chiefs out in the field, inspectors out in the field, where we feel that technology is a great advantage to them while they're out in the field, because they are connected both by voice but also by email in the field, and can have that direct connectivity with City Hall. So it is monitored, and we do review it every year.
Thank you. I don't have a problem with, or I don't think anyone has a problem with someone who is on call or who's out in the field, or who needs to be off-site and still has to have contact with their department. I guess, though, I think that we should have, and I don't know what my fellow councilors feel, we should have a criteria or policy so that's at least the same in all departments. So that if there's whatever the policy or the criteria is, as you just explained it, then it should be policy and criteria. So that it's not really at the discretion of anybody. It's part of the policy and part of the criteria on how we would give out a BlackBerry or a cell phone. So all I'm asking is that it be made criteria or policy, so that take away the gray, so that there's no unknown. If it is needed, you get it. Here's the policy. Here's the criteria, so that we don't have to ask this again.
Mr. Mayor, I think we can do that. We'll ask Mr. Dart through HR. I know we've got some general guidelines. We can certainly put this down in a more formalized manner. As the treasurer indicated, it is at the discretion, but to make sure that consistency, I think we could firm it up a little bit.
I think we should be just treating all the departments the same in this regard, because they're looked at like perks.
No, absolutely.
Like they're looked at as perks as well. They're not just looked at as tools. In some companies, having a BlackBerry or a laptop or a cell phone is looked at as a perk, and I would just like to see all staff treated the same. That's all.
So a Grecian formula policy to take out the gray? Is that your okay? Do we need a motion, or is it direction? Yeah. Okay. Well, did you want to make that motion, Councillor? Okay, moved by Councillor Carrier and seconded by Councillor Thompson that staff come back with policy and procedure criteria for the use of BlackBerries and cell phones. Smartphones, whatever it is in that case. Right, we'll call the vote. All those in favor? Okay, and that's unanimous. All right, so that concludes our reports. I guess we can move into our presentations and deputations. Okay, Mayor's Youth Advisory is Mayor's Youth Advisory out in the hallway. Maybe we'll invite them in. Let's just get right into it. So what we've got first is the Mayor's Youth Advisory is going to give an update to Council on their activities throughout this past year, as they are now concluded, and they will be ending for the summer. Who is the leader of you people? I didn't see it. Gentlemen, is all your group inside already?
We're all in? Awesome.
All right, excellent. Welcome to tonight's council meeting. And this will be the last council meeting you'll address in the current role with the current committee the way it is today. Is that right?
It is right,
Okay,
yes.
well, welcome. The floor is yours. Maybe introduce yourselves first.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Your Worship and Council, for having us tonight. My name is Connor Bitter, and I've had the pleasure of serving as one of the co-chairs for this year's Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee. Next to me is George Liu, who is also serving as the co-chair.
Yes.
So, what is the Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee?
Our mission as the Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee is to provide a voice for the youth in Niagara Falls. We are also here to help advise Council of recreational and also social issues that the different youth in Niagara Falls face on a daily basis. And also it is our goal to try to link the city with the students of the 5 high schools that are currently present.
All right, so just to put that in context, some of the things that we've done over the past few years. About 10 years ago, the Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee held a youth forum to determine the needs of the youth in the city. That resulted in the construction of a skate park, which is now located beside the McBain Community Center. About 3 years ago, our former co-chairs, Aaron Bailey and Yasvi Shah, focused on advocating for the youth in regards to the plastic water bottle ban in city facilities. You may remember last year we were also back in here talking about that when the biodegradable water bottle issue was brought up, and we worked with Park in the City to help the city define biodegradable.
So to introduce our year, we decided to split the committee into 3 subcommittees. The first being the Youth Voice Committee, which was to provide a voice for the different youth in the city and to create surveys and also presentable data for council. The second was the Giving Back Committee, and of course, as the name suggests, it was to help give back to the community that we are currently in through different events that we would organize and also to help other events. The final one is Just for Fun, and that was basically our kind of committee to help influence the students into the culture of Niagara Falls and also create events that are kind of like interact the different schools together and to create a more enjoyable enjoyable day and like events.
All right, so I'm going to start by talking about the Youth Voice Committee. In your packages tonight, you should have the Youth Voice survey results that I compiled last night. So we focused on 2 general areas of need in the youth, or for the youth this year. We focused on recreation first and transportation secondly. So the results of the recreation survey, I'm just going to briefly overview what we found that the youth were displaying in the results for the respondents. The most used recreational facilities in the past few years for the youth were athletics, fitness, and tourist-intended attractions. Some underused and less used events were the arts and culture events or games events. We also asked youth what factors limited their ability to do something recreational in the city. The 2 greatest limiting factors were cost and transportation. So for our second survey, we decided to focus on one of these key issues, which was transportation. This was something that MIAC did have a focus on last year. We did sit on the Transit Ad Hoc Committee, and we did help develop the new routes that were proposed. So our findings found that public transportation is underutilized by the youth. You can see here that 62% of respondents did not use public transportation in any form, and only 19% used citywide transit. Interestingly enough, even though such a few number did respond, they were saying they used public transit, the youth of the city only gave the transportation here a 6.5 average. That correlates to a C- on our schools report card.
Okay.
All right, so sorry, I just asked that if you have a chance, just go through the survey results in your package, and we do have some conclusions in there, and please follow up if you have any questions with that.
Another big factor of the Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee is the community involvement that we participate in. One of the biggest events that we actually did this year was we were able to nominate a Youth Volunteer of the Year award, and this was the very first, and our very first recipient was Ashley Hepburn. And it was a really great event, and we hope to continue to be able to provide this. Another thing that we did was Bowl for Kids' sake, and this was to help raise awareness and also to fundraise for Big Brothers Big Sisters. And a lot of people went, and as you can see, they dressed up as pirates for the theme. Another thing that we did was also the Santa Claus Parade. The Santa Claus Parade we've done and helped out with for many years. And we set up a tent outside of City Hall where we would serve hot beverages and also light snacks to the participants of the parade and also the watchers. We also did the community outreach, which was basically a meal service that would help anyone who needed a warm meal during the winter time. And MIAC went as two groups, which helped prepare food, serve food, and also help clean up. This has been a tradition for MIAC, and we really hope to continue helping out with this organization further. And finally, we also did the community clean sweep again many years back. MIAC has adopted a street, and since then we've always helped to clean up the street. And this year we actually helped with the McBain Community Center parking lot cleanup as well during the volunteer week. And we usually always go twice a year, and we just help clean the street.
All right, so in addition to our community involvement, we also host the occasional event. You may remember 3 years ago the infamous School Palooza that happened over at Oaks Park. And this year we decided to bring it back at a different venue right outside City Hall here on Queen Street. We partnered with Springlicious, and we saw a crowd of close to 1,000 people show up. Everyone was really excited, and there was a great friendly competition. We had different events such as the fire truck pull, the food eating contests, various Minute to Win It contests, and some talent showcases. For the third year in a row, St. Paul was victorious. But I should mention that one of our own committee members, Jay Patel, helped Stamford pull the fire truck to victory.
During the event, we actually had a little bit of difficulty with the rain. It was something we couldn't really control, and there was a little bit of rain halfway through our event. But a lot of people did stay and kind of take shelter underneath the Hatch building, and they just kind of socialized. And after it, we actually had two really dedicated MIAC members, and maybe even more, who helped, Hassan and Jay, who helped on the secondary stage. And they helped coordinate all of the other bands who haven't played yet by the time that it started raining, and they helped them be able to kind of perform their talent. Overall, it was a really great event, and we really do hope to do it next year because the turnout was really great, and it was kind of like getting back on track. A lot of people were actually saying they were really sad to miss it from West Lane due to our prom conflicting on the same day, and a lot of people are really excited to do this event.
Awesome. So yeah, in addition to School Palooza that we went back to something from 3 years ago, we also decided this year to do a semi-formal dinner dance, Nights End the Stigma. I'd ask that Sam Woodcroft to come up here to talk about this as the chair of the Giving Back Committee.
Your Worship, Council, it's a pleasure to be here tonight. I have my friend Natalie Janberry over here with me to help me with the distribution of the funds that we raised. In the beginning of this year, MIAC, as George and Connor said, split into 3 separate committees. And we wanted to focus on something that we hadn't really done in a while. So we created a subcommittee called Giving Back, and we wanted to do just that. We wanted to give back to our great community of Niagara Falls, which has been so great to us over the years that we have been able to live here. So we decided to do a dinner dance, a semi-formal theme, of which Mayor Jim Diodati did attend, and we were grateful for his attendance. And we had a special speaker, Tommy Frew from Team Canada. Don't know if anybody knows him, but he supplies in the Catholic School Board as well. And he struggled with a lot of mental illness and still does throughout his hockey career. So we decided to choose a cause that was really close to our hearts, and being that our generation suffers from a lot of this, we chose mental illness. And so we held the dinner dance. Tommy Frew spoke, and then after that we did have the dance portion for everyone, and dinner was served as well. So through that dinner dance, we were able to raise $350, of which I'd like to call up Janice Casey, and I think we have Tabitha Toonies and Cedric Deschatelet. And we'd like to present them with a check of $350 on behalf of Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee to the Niagara Suicide Prevention Coalition as the benefactor of our funds.
do a shot over here. I think Beth's got her camera ready.
Allie does.
Someone there? Okay. Just come right up this way, just follow the yellow brick road. Welcome. Welcome. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Welcome. Oh, we got a big party coming up. No, good. Scott.
Okay.
Hello. Welcome.
Thank
Nice
you
job.
very much.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll kind of gather in nice and snug. Everybody shake hands. Now let's come on nice and snug. Okay, pull in as tight as you can, and then we'll do a shot. Who are we looking at? Wait. Okay, let's do Joyce first. Joyce. Okay.
One more. Perfect.
Okay, excellent. Did you want to say, maybe say a couple of words?
So as co-chair of the Niagara Suicide Prevention Coalition, we do want to thank the MIAC committee. These youth are part of our subcommittee, and their focus is bringing suicide awareness to youth in Niagara. So we are grateful and thankful for the MIAC, Niagara Falls group anyway, that has included us in their promotion. So thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Sam, for that. So I just want to talk a bit about how MIAC grows as a team, and it's something that I think has been overlooked the past couple of years when we've been presenting to council. This really is an absolutely amazing opportunity for the youth that are involved with MIAC, and we learn and grow together every day. These values are something that we come up with during our leadership day, and it's something that we exemplify through our work and through how we interact with each other. Even outside of work, we usually end up forming many friendships in the committee.
As Connor mentioned, the Leadership Day, we originally started with many new faces and many people that we didn't know. And although at the beginning we were quite distant, we grew and we decided to plan events together. We created goals for ourselves. We set values to strive towards. And through all that process, I really feel that we've bravely moved forward from that very first Leadership Day. Now looking back at the journey, I really feel that as a MIAC, we're usually known as a committee, but I really feel that we should actually be known as a family because how enjoyable the time we have had to present and also to create events and do fun and extraordinary things, and it's really great.
Absolutely, and as George said, it really is a great opportunity for us to learn and grow and grow our family and our network. So we just want to thank you again for your support of the Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee, and your support really does give us a voice in the city and it allows us to be NL. Thank you.
Before you guys go, I just want to say a couple of things. Now, first of all, is everybody here from the committee, or are you missing a few people?
We're missing a couple.
Missing a couple, okay. Now, could I just by a show of hands, how many people will be leaving high school and moving on to post-secondary? Just by a show of hands, how many people will be leaving us? All right, and then just really quickly, just tell us where you're going. Where you're going and what you're going to take. So, Haley, maybe we're going to start with you and we'll work our way across the room.
I'm going to University of Guelph for biomedical science.
Guelph for biomedical science, okay.
It's recruiter now.
Who's next?
Michelle.
I'm going to York University to study at their Schilling School of Business.
Okay.
Sam.
I'm going to McMaster for social work.
Okay.
I'm going to Waterloo for actuarial science.
And? Okay, Serena.
I'm going to Wilfrid Laurier for criminology.
I'm going to McMaster for kinesiology.
Is that over back here?
And I'm going to Loyalist and then coming back to Brock for nursing.
Okay. I'm going to Waterloo for computer science.
And I'm going to Harvard University for government and stem cell biology.
So you're, yeah. And see, Council, that's why this group here, they're leaders, and I like the way you said it. You came as strangers and you leave kind of as family. These are lifelong friendships that you're going to make. And there's a waiting list of kids at each of the high schools that want to get on this committee because of the networking, because of the leadership, because of the experiences, grassroots, and making actual change in your community where they have a voice. And through this council has given them a voice where we've made positive change. And now they're going to go on, and the message that we gave them, well, BNF, be Niagara Falls, be proud of where you come from, be proud to come back, and then be enough. And the idea is that go out, get your life experiences, get your education, get all the things that you need, your life experiences, and then come back and enrich us. And this council is recreating this city along with our staff to make it a much different place than it was a long time ago and as it is today. It's going to be an exciting place. We're going to need talent. We're going to need people to run the city. So we're hoping that you've got enough of an ownership stake in this city that you're going to want to come back and be proud of your city. And I can tell you that we're very proud of you. You're the elite that were chosen by your schools to be on this committee, and you've given back, and we're very, very proud of you. So thank you very much for all that you've done and all that you're going to do in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I know you guys are dying to stick around to watch the rest of this council meeting. And if that's the case, by all means, hang out. I don't blame you.
Or run.
Yeah, or run fast. Moving along to next, we've got our Arts and Culture, Alistair Young Arts and Culture Endowment. And I understand that we've got representatives from the Arts and Culture Committee to make this presentation. Yes, here too. Priscilla Brett and Lindsay Rossetti, are you here? No, take your time. It's all right. We're good. Come on around. I guess I'll join them. Is there more? Yeah. The clerk wants me to show my sock. So just get it over with. Okay, there it is right there. Okay, you happy? Everyone happy? I got these in Vancouver last week.
Yeah, I know that you were showing them off.
It seems funky socks are the thing now. So anyway, part of the thing, I guess.
I've seen the ones in shorts last
Are they? What socks do you have, Kelsey? He's got his blackies. Okay. Okay. You have a camera ready? Put it on. Yeah, please.
Good evening. My name is Priscilla Brett, and I'm Chair of the Arts and Culture Committee for the City of Niagara Falls. I hope everyone had an opportunity to look at the art out in the library, in the lobby, not the library. It's actually from the John Burtnick collection, which is housed at the Niagara Falls Art Gallery, and the oldest piece in the collection is from 1876, so it's pretty impressive. We really appreciate the opportunity to showcase art here, and we can't wait to see more. I'm very pleased to be here tonight to present the 2013 Alistair Young Arts and Culture Endowment Award. In 1997, Mr. Alistair Young donated a 1932 Ford Roadster to the then Arts and Culture Commission. The car was raffled off, and the money raised from the sale of tickets was used to establish an Arts and Culture Endowment Fund. The endowment fund has undergone several changes over the years, all with the permission of Mr. Young. Applicants must be residents of Niagara Falls in grade 12 or above, ages 16 to 100, and must be active artists in any creative arts field. One award, $1,000, will be awarded to one individual each year. This year there was an overwhelming response for the called applications, and the Arts and Culture Committee had a very difficult decision to make. And on that note, we're happy to announce the 2013 winner of the Alistair Young Endowment is Lindsay Rossetti. Lindsay is a graduate of St. Michael Catholic High School and Brock University's Visual Arts program. Lindsay studied art with the late Maria Clocker. I always say that wrong, I apologize. She's a dedicated community volunteer, and using her artistic talent helps out various organizations such as the Niagara Falls Humane Society. Would Mr. Mayor Diodati and Lindsay please come forward for the awards presentation, but you're already here. Congratulations, Lindsay. We wish you the very best and continue to advance your skills and grow your art business. It's wonderful to see youth remain in Niagara Falls and follow their heart. Thank you. and hide and do it with her name out. How about that?
Yeah. Yeah. Who are we looking at again?
Do you want to time?
Oh, we'll look right here. Richard.
Jim.
Oh.
Jim. That's her dad.
Okay, yeah, right. Good. Joyce, you're good. Everyone else? Paparazzi? Oh, yeah, sure. One more, sure. I'm going to take one more, too. You want my hand up? Yeah. Okay. Oh. And, oh, wait, we should have done, oh, this is something separate, or is this?
No, you can give her the flowers, too.
And she gets
She's got a
flowers,
picture of
too,
it.
yeah. Maybe we should have had that in the picture. Isn't that pretty? Richard, bring us some flowers here. Let's get close. Richard? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you got a choice. Smart.
It's the camera phone. She's sneaky. I can see her. Okay, the Arts and Culture Committee would like to take this opportunity to remind everybody that the next awards session will be the Arts and Culture Wall of Fame, which is at the Niagara Falls Square. The deadline is July 30th, but you can nominate people year-round. Nominate somebody you know, please. And finally, we're pleased to announce the creation of a new arts contest. You might be interested in this. It'll be run in conjunction with the Santa Claus Parade in November. There's entry levels for any age and any type of art. So keep an eye out for the flyer and on our website. Thank you, everybody, and have a good evening.
Excellent. Councilor Pietrangelo, I've got a pair of socks for you, too.
Yeah, I can imagine.
All right. Thank you, Mayor's Youth Advisory. Have a good weekend, good summer. Yes, Councilor Morocco.
I just want to say that Lindsay was an excellent choice for the selection of artistic. She has been so artistic since she's been small, and I have to say that her father, Tony, who also works for the city, definitely is one of the biggest fans. So congratulations, she's well deserved.
Well done. Okay, next up, Museum Advisory Board. We've got Don Jackson and Gord West. They're here. Pardon me? And they are here to address us as General Brock. Drummond.
We didn't mean to scare your audience away.
Yeah.
Can I give these to you?
What's that?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Your Worship, members of council, staff. I'm Gord West, Chair of the Board of the City's Museums Advisory Board. And with me tonight is Don Jackson, as mentioned, General Drummond, and Clark Burnett, who is the manager of the museums. I want to thank you for this opportunity to appear before you. As promised when we began this legacy project those many years ago, we are here tonight to give you our periodic update on how the city's investment in the project has proceeded, including, of course, the Niagara Falls History Museum, which won, by the way, the 2012 Community Design Award for Overall Excellence. That award is in our lobby, and you can drop by anytime to see it, as well as the rest of the museum. So, some of the 2012 achievements that we have. Dean, thank you. Our July 21st opening of the new Niagara Falls History Museum. We now have an at the museum night on Thursday evening, every Thursday evening. As suggested when we first started this was going to be more than just a history museum, or more than just a museum, and we now have many new user groups. We had a citizenship ceremony there early on. The Queen's Diamond Jubilee ceremony was there. We have beaver colonies, cub troops, and brownies are there as well. We have yoga in the courtyard. And we have formed many new partnerships. They're not there, but we have established partnerships with the Regency Dancers, the 2nd Lincoln Militia, the DSBN, the NCBSB, Fleming College. There is an intern from Fleming College right now at the History Museum. The Niagara College, of course, the Canadian Conservation Institute, and many more. We were a lead organization in one Cultural Capital of Canada project. Last year, as you may remember, we were nominated and awarded the Cultural Capital of Canada in the region. And we have 120 research requests processed from July to December, July last year to December last year. The economic impact. Our museums employ 13 people in our community. 9 of them are full-time employees. It spends over $300,000 each year on goods and services in our community. It served over 12,000 visitors on site and 26,000 virtual visitors since its opening in July 2012. That was to the end of April. I have some new numbers or some new percentages that will come up a little later on. Served over 1,000 school children since July of 2012, and that was despite the work to rule that was rather extended. We had 450 school children attended our Medieval Week program. We provide access to all on Thursday nights with free admission after 5 p.m. It is now 60% of our casual visitors are from out of town. You'll see that in the next slide. And the job creation estimate of the Niagara Falls History Museum was 1,663 person weeks. You'll see the number that says 71% of our casual visitors from out of town. In fact, 60% of our casual visitors are from outside the region as well. You can see by that pie chart that we are attracting visitors from all over, including 7% of them come from the rest of the world. And this is an indication of how we have succeeded since closure in 2009 to our total attendance in 2009 was 3,425. From August to April this year, we've had 9,650 people through the front doors. And that does not, of course, include the opening on July 21st last year. It would skew the numbers a little bit, but there were 1,500 people that came to our opening that day. And now I will give it to Don. I mean, the General.
Thank you, Gord. Mayor Jim, Alderman. That shows my history. Councillors, staff, ladies and gentlemen. There's a saying, and I think it's absolutely true, and you should remember this, that your museums are a happening place to be. Not only do we have, obviously, the new Niagara Falls History Museum, but we have the Battleground Hotel Museum and the Willoughby Historical Museum, which are all operating at their scheduled times for the balance of this year. All of the museums are fulfilling what is the obvious mandate for them, and that is to preserve and to tell the story about our great city. And they all do that in various ways, in the galleries, in the Niagara Falls History Museum, on the Battleground Hotel Museum itself, on weekends, as is the same case with the Willoughby Historical Museum. The one thing that we seem to focus on, but I want you to all remember, and that's why I'm dressed this way, is that the bicentennial was not just a single event that took place in June 2012. It's a 3-year event during which an awful lot of activities have taken place, not only in this city but in the whole Niagara region. And I just want to point out a few of them. There is a walk coming up that is sponsored by the Thorold people, the Laura Secord Walk, which we will be part of, in which I understand your mayor is walking the whole distance in. And we will be receiving people at Fireman's Park, which is an area that is part of that walk and has been upgraded to make sure that it's safe for the walkers by our city. July is going to be a happening time as far as the bicentennial is concerned. During that month of July, our manager is going to be initiating real-time tweets about activities that have taken place some 200 years ago in connection with the War of 1812. And we hope that you will join in that conversation and learn a lot more things about the War of 1812. July the 5th is the memorial service that takes place in connection with the Battle of Chippewa, and that is an event in which we do participate. On July 18th at the Niagara Falls History Museum, there will be a number of reenactors throughout the museum telling stories, impersonating 1812. On July 27th, there is an activity taking place in connection with the market. It will take place in our courtyard, but it's, as you know, adjacent to the market, called Petticoat, Boots, and Muskets. And you will learn much more about the war with that particular situation. The one I really want to promote tonight is an activity which we know will make enough noise to let you know that the bicentennial is still taking place. And that's an event called Hear the Cannons Roar. And at the Battlefield School Park, I'm not quite sure yet what the official name is of that park, but the venue is incredible. On the actual battlefield, we will have set up 4 cannons. Each of those cannons will be sponsored by a community group or business, and those sponsorships are all arranged now. So each sponsor will be able to fire his or her own cannon once. But in addition to that, if you are one of the lucky ones who come to this event, and we expect a lot of people because we have a special giveaway for everybody that attends, if you are one of the lucky people who registers at this event and your name is chosen, you will also be able to fire one of the cannons. We will choose 4 people from amongst all of those that are in attendance. You will have an opportunity to be trained. The whole activity is under the jurisdiction of the 2nd Lincoln Artillery, and they will be in charge of both safety as well as making sure the guns do actually roar. So
General Drummond, our CAO had a question. Did you want to ask the General? He just wanted to know if we could decide which way we pointed the guns. That's all he wanted to know. If that was no. Okay.
Thank you. A suggestion.
I will not get into that. Okay. Thank you. The immediately following will be an activity called Spirit of a Nation, and it is a theatrical musical event which we had originally planned to have at the museum, but there are 30-some actors, singers, and so on involved in this activity, so we are going to have it immediately following Hear the Cannons Roar right on the battlefield site. So it will be the place to be on June 25th. June 25th, remember, is the 199th anniversary of
July 25th.
What did I say?
June.
Well, that was my birthday. No. I was trying to remind you of that too, sorry. No, July 25th, the 199th anniversary of the Battle of Lundy's Lane. And then, of course, the annual commemorative service for the Battle of Lundy's Lane will be held on the Sunday, July the 28th at 12:30, and it will be held at the 1812 monument at the top of Drummond Hill. So July is really, you're really going to get saturated with events related to the War of 1812, but in particular events that are associated directly with the city of Niagara Falls. Stay tuned for other things that are in the making for what will be the 200th anniversary of that famous battle, the battle which really did turn the tide and ultimately led to us knowing Canada as we understand it today. So, any of the other upcoming events you can look at there. We've had we are on our second temporary exhibition in that OPG gallery already. There is a third one already ordered and will be in place for September. Come to the museum every Thursday night. There are people at this museum. I hope that the message that everybody around this table gets is that your investment in the City of Niagara Falls museums, and in particular the new Niagara Falls History Museum, is paying dividends in an incredible way. So thank you very much.
Thank you, General. Do we have any questions or comments of council for any of these gentlemen? Well, we appreciate all that you do to make sure that our history and our culture is preserved and it's promoted, and it's a very exciting place. You're right, it's a much different feel to go down there now than it was at the old facility, and we'll just leave it at that. Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here.
My greatest hope is that for the next year I'll still be able to fit into this.
Depends how much you eat June 25th for your birthday.
Yes, thank you. Happy birthday.
Okay, moving along to planning matters. We have a public meeting, AM 2013 007 zoning bylaw amendment. I would ask our clerk if he would please introduce this next item on the agenda.
Your Worship, a public meeting is now being convened to consider a proposed amendment to the city zoning bylaw to permit a proposed retail store at 7361 Pin Oak Drive. Notice was given by first-class mail in accordance with the Planning Act on Friday, May 10th, 2013, and by posting a sign on the property in question. Anyone who wants notice of the passage of the zoning bylaw amendment to participate in any site plan process, if applicable, or preserve their opportunity to appeal to the Ontario Municipal Board shall leave their name on the sign-in sheets outside the council chamber.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Hurlovich, can you explain the purpose and reason for tonight's bylaw amendment?
Thank you, Worship. Excuse me, this property is located on the west side of Pin Oak Drive opposite Niagara Square. So it's immediately south of McLeod Road and is in an area of major commercial development. Immediately to the north is Tim Hortons. To the south is Niagara Peninsula Energy. The bylaw amendment is to permit retail stores to be added as uses on this particular property. There are currently 3 site-specific zonings on this property, so that those zonings will be removed or be repealed, and they'll be replaced by 1 site-specific zoning. As well, the holding provisions will be amended so that they actually are worded to reflect the agreement that the city has with regard to improvements to the QEW and McLeod Road interchange. We did hold a neighborhood open house. No one attended. Again, it's a relatively small property with the commercial building on it comprised of various units. The official plan designates the land's major commercial. There are requirements that the there'd be interchange improvements, and therefore each property as it expands would be responsible for making a donation toward those improvements. The policies that were in place actually were fairly restrictive in 1993. We've now replaced those policies with more lenient policies for commercial development, and the size of the property limits the size of the commercial. I mentioned as well there are holding provisions for the QEW interchange improvements. The zoning, there are 3 zoning bylaws currently affecting the property. They include a variety of automotive type uses. It does permit retail stores, but those retail stores have to be ancillary to one of the automotive uses. So this zone would actually permit retail stores to exist independently, in fact include all of the general commercial zone provisions, which are the same as other shopping districts around. As well, I mentioned that we would be replacing the holding provision so that it would be consistent with the agreement that the city has with the province, which has to do with the expansion of floor area prior to making or taking any contributions prior to expansion of floor area. Therefore, the amendment can be supported, and staff is recommending that council approve the zoning bylaw amendment application to add retail stores to the list of permitted uses, and that we amend the holding provision for the contributions to the QEW McLeod Road interchange as improvements to the floor area and the building is being expanded. Those are the highlights.
Thank you, Mr. Hurlovich. Are there any questions or comments from council? Okay, seeing none, members of the public are advised that failure to make an oral or written submission at this public meeting will result in the Ontario Municipal Board dismissing any referral that it receives. Failure to sign the sign-in sheet will result in staff rejecting an appeal as per Section 3419 of the Planning Act. Council will now hear from anyone other than the applicant who wishes to speak to the proposed bylaw amendment. Is anyone here to speak other than the applicant? Okay, seeing none, council will now hear from the applicant or his or her representative.
Good evening, members of council. My name is Lana Scambolari. I'm appearing on behalf of Rocco Vaca with this matter. Just briefly, we accept the recommendations provided in the report on behalf of the planning staff, and we thank the planning staff for their continued cooperation throughout this process. Other than that, we have nothing further subject to any questions.
Okay, that's great. Any questions from council? Okay, we're good. Thank you very much. The public meeting with respect to the zoning bylaw amendment is now concluded. Motion by Councillor Pietrangelo, second by Councillor Maves, that we move the recommendation. All those in favor? Okay, and that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Now to the mayor's reports and announcements. We start off with some obituaries. Gerard Marier, grandfather of city staff member Melanie and her husband Sean Oatley. We pass our regrets to their loss. Ross Angiers, for 37 years, Ross worked at the Niagara Falls Memorial Arena, where he was known as Ross the Boss. Rafael Fabiano, employed by the City of Niagara Falls as a carpenter for 28 years. And Alec Greaves, former Director of Planning for Niagara Falls and the region. And our condolences go out to their families. FCM took place in Vancouver last week. Councillor Iannone and myself, along with some regional councillors, were there to bring the flag back to Niagara Falls, as we will be hosting the FCM conference and the CAMA conference, which is all of the CAOs across Canada, as well as all of the city leaders across Canada. We'll be here in Niagara Falls next June. Very, very big event. Our booth, by far, by the way, was the most popular. Voted number one. And we thank Councillor Morocco for her help in helping to put this together as well. The booth, for those of you that were not aware, and I know Dale Morton was there as well, helping us to work our booths and put it together, was a green screen where you were able to get in a barrel. You could have your beach ball, you could have your snorkel, you could have a sign, and it had it look like you were going over the falls. And we did these digital prints, put them in little frames, and by far, we were more popular. The number 2 booth, which was a distant number 2, was to win Haagen-Dazs ice cream bars. So we kicked it. Yeah, Councillor Iannone won many times at that booth. But we were very, very popular. You'd be happy to know that we're promoting Niagara Falls in a big way, and they're very, very excited about bringing, for the first time ever, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Conference here to Niagara Falls. Yes, Councillor Pietrangelo?
Who had the booth to win socks?
I lost that one. That's why I had to wear the socks, yeah. So it was a great conference, and I can tell you, coast to coast, everyone is very excited. And typically who also attend are the leaders of, I mean, there could be the Prime Minister, there could be the leaders of the opposition. Rick Hansen was at the event. It was well done. Vancouver definitely set the bar high. And it's funny, as we were there with the organizers, and we said, wow, we're at the main hospitality room overlooking the water and the mountains, and it's a pretty scenic sight. We said, wow, that's a tough act to follow. They said, not too many destinations could top this. They said, but Niagara Falls is one of those. So they hold us in high regard, and everyone's very excited, and we encourage them, come early, stay late, but prepare yourself for a good time. So that'll be next year. The Snowbirds had their 50th anniversary celebrated over the falls. First time they've ever had their show in Niagara Falls, over the falls, and it was just spectacular, neat scene to be a part of. We had a cardiac diagnostic clinic have their grand opening on Main Street, across from Patterson Funeral Home, and I'll tell you, anyone who's going to have any kind of heart issues or cardiac issues, this is a top-notch clinic with the absolute latest in equipment. So it's good to know that we've got this clinic here in town. So we got you covered. Becky's Believers, we had a bake sale here at the city. Becky is the wife of James Stika, who works here at the city in our water department. And through this bake sale throughout the city, and with all the support of city staff, raised over $2,000 for Canadian Cancer Society's Relay for Life, which is really neat, and which, by the way, also took place at St. Paul High School, where they run throughout the night from 7 p.m. until 7 a.m. And the idea behind that is typically someone who's suffering from things like cancer. The quiet time is when they suffer the most, when everybody is gone, when people have gone to sleep, and it's to support them throughout the night when they feel alone. So congratulations to James and Becky and all the supporters for Becky's Believers. We had the annual Tourism Week kickoff take place this past week at the Tourism Center at the QEW going into St. Catharines. And of course the big news this year is that we finally got the green light from the OMB for the Fort Erie Raceway, which eventually will host NASCAR racetrack with Gordon. Jeff Gordon. Thank you, James Gordon. Jeff Gordon. This will be huge, not just because they're going to invest hundreds of millions, but because what really impressed these Saudi investors, they didn't want to be outside of Niagara Falls until they got to the site and they realized how close Fort Erie was. You could see the mist of the falls in the skyline from the site. And we will benefit in a huge way when they build this. There will be the hockey classic they're looking to have out there at their site. They're looking to have major outdoor concerts where they'll be able to host up to 150,000 people at a time. This will be absolutely huge. There'll be an R&D facility tied in with McMaster University. And this seriously will be the biggest thing to happen, I believe, since the casinos came to town. In Niagara Falls, we were able to host the OFSA Girls Soccer Championships and Banquet hosted by St. Paul High School. That took place at local hall, and we're very excited that all the girls were in town and they had a great time here in Niagara Falls. We recently were there to share in the Premier's Award for Safe and Accepting Schools, which was presented to St. Mike's High School. Along with Councillor Pietrangelo, the school was one of the only one in the Niagara region and only a few across the province to accept this award for accepting schools, whether it be bullying or any other type of issue. The school took top marks. And some of their great things they do, they have an international food festival where you can eat foods of the world prepared by the students. They've got their mob pink t-shirts, which is, what's that stand for?
That's the one you wore, the one you...
Yes, that you got me a copy of. I appreciate that. And what does that stand for, the mob? Again, something about bullying?
Yeah, opposed to bullying.
Yeah, opposed to bullying. St. Mike's opposed to bullying, and which is a great cause of one of many that they do at St. Mike's High School. And thanks to the Mr. Witter and all the staff there that promoted that, and we're so successful. We recently had the David Gregory McKinnon Memorial Foundation Golf Classic. to help kids that are suffering from kidney disease. They lost their son 2 years ago to kidney disease, and it's nice that they're able to put their efforts forward to helping other kids that suffer from the same thing. Comic-Con took place at the Convention Center, and if anyone didn't have a chance to get out there, you were one of the few. What an incredible event. They went from last year having one hall, one day, to going to having all 3 halls for 2 days. And I was there at one point when there was lineups of several hundred people who couldn't get in because they were filled up inside. And some of the inside things I have to share with you that I was thrilled about. For anyone that followed Batman back in the day, Lee Merriweather, and one of the original Catwomen, she was there, and you had a chance to meet her, and she's still looking as foxy as ever. Also Adam West, Batman, who at 84 looks just incredible, and he's funny. He's the voice of the mayor on Family Guy, and real funny guy. I had a real interesting talk with him, but he's got a resurgence in his popularity since the Family Guy show, and as the mayor, and he's known as an eccentric mayor, so we had a good mayor-to-mayor talk, and it was very interesting. For anyone who used to watch Friday nights, Lou Ferrigno, the Hulk, the guy, he's still built like a tank, and he's a big man and a super, super nice guy. I got to meet him. Flash Gordon, Sam J. Jones was there from 1980, the original Flash Gordon. And of course the Soup Nazi for Seinfeld. Larry Thomas was there, and for any of us sci-fi geeks, we had Tuvok, Tim Russ, who's the not Klingon, he is the, help me, he is a, come on. He is a, what was Spock? Spock was a Vulcan. Thank you, thank you. I just want to flush out all the other sci-fi geeks in the room. So, anyway, what a thrilling event. They had Living Dead, especially with the advent of zombies and how popular. This place was absolutely full, and the people were thrilled. There were smiles everywhere you went. This is a big event, and it's just going to continue to grow. And hats off to Paul Tappe and to Chris Dabrowski for their efforts and for putting on such a great event. There was a big risk, and there's also a good reward for them for doing the event. And you want to hear the names they're talking about bringing in for next year. So it's only going to get bigger, and it's only going to get better. Yesterday we hosted the City Retirees Luncheon. Congratulations to all the retirees of the city for all your years of dedicated service. Yesterday I was happy to host Margaret Trudeau as she was in town for the National Health Leadership Conference. She was talking about mental illness, and what an incredible speaker. You ever had a chance to listen to this lady? What an incredible speaker, smart lady, and she's been through a lot. And her book is called Changing My Mind. And for anyone that has a family member or friend who's suffering from any kind of mental illness, highly recommended. A book you won't be able to put down, and someone who lived it and who's come out of it on the other side. Thank you to the following council members for attending events in our community. Firstly, with Councillor Peter Angelo for attending the Pink Parlor Productions Dance and Exercise Class Kickoff. I understand you participated as well. Thank you, Councillor.
And I gave my socks to you.
Thank you for those. And also, Councillor, for the Institute of Music Arts graduation. To Councillor Wing for the Qing Ming Festival. So we had Wing at the Qing Ming Festival. So that's great. And to Councillor Gates for being at the Battle of the Falls Women's Wrestling. I understand you participated as well, Councillor.
I borrowed Mr. Councillor Thompson's outfit.
His leopard outfit, Councillor? Oh, excellent, excellent.
I'm surprised it fit. Small.
Oh boy. We're going to have to change the rating of our council shows. Also for being at the Pink Parlor Productions and dancing and exercising along with Councillor Peter Angelo. And for the Coast to Coast Ride Car Wash to support Neil Babbage. And what's coming up? We're going to be welcoming Dr. Ben Pang back to Niagara Falls. He's currently set up his practice with his father, Dr. Pang Sr. in Chippewa. We're happy to welcome him back to the city. And it's good to have doctors who've left the city for their education come back to the city to set up their practice. We've got a Rotary Rib Fest taking place this weekend at Optimist Park from Friday to Sunday. We've got the Mayor's Accessibility Committee Barbecue taking place this coming Monday, June 17th, in front of City Hall at noon. The Laura Secord Bicentennial Commemorative Walk takes place June the 22nd. Starts at the Laura Secord Homestead in Queenston. And some of us are going to be doing the full walk, which is 32 kilometers. Will be taking place, that original walk that she had to make 200 years ago, pretty incredible. Except today we have better shoes than she had back then, I understand. The Stamford Center Volunteer Firefighters will have their annual carnival starting this Wednesday, going through until Saturday night. Bird Kingdom will be having their 10th anniversary, Sunday, June the 23rd, with free admission for kids and special activities all day long. And Lynn's Farm 2013 season launch will take place at the Seneca Queen Theatre, taking place on June the 24th. You can get your tickets down there to watch plays such as Shirley Valentine, The 39 Steps, and The Ravine. And this concludes the mayor's remarks. I'm sorry, Councillor, you like a few? You want me to repeat that last one? Certainly I can do that. Communications and comments of the city clerk. First item, Victoria Centre BIA requesting the use of the city-owned former rail line property for their Summer of Thrills event. All right. So we've got a motion by Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Iannoni, that we move 1 to 4. So that being the first, second being the St. Pat's Church bell issue. Thirdly being the Congress of Italian Canada requesting a flag raising on June the 24th. And fourth, that the Parks and Recreation Ontario request that we proclaim Parks and Recreation Month in the city of Niagara Falls for June. We'll call the vote. All those in favor? And that's approved unanimously. Mr. Clerk, are there any additional items for Council's consideration?
No, Your Worship.
Okay, we're looking for...
Move the consent.
Okay, first we're at the in-camera ratification.
A couple of recommendations, Your Worship. That Council authorize the execution of the agreements that are related to bylaws 2013-98 and 2013-99 later on your agenda. And that staff be directed to include a mutual termination clause of 90 days in any lease agreements between the corporation and volunteer or nonprofit organizations, including the Niagara Military Museum.
Okay, looking for a motion. Moved by Councillor Iannoni, second by Councillor Morocco. Yes, Councillor Thompson?
I just want to compliment, I guess, Mr. Dren and Transportation for the speed increase on Oakwood Drive. I was initially told that that would be several months.
We're not there yet. We're still doing in camera.
Well, I'll finish it anyway.
Okay, go ahead. Finish it up.
So when we move that, could you please send a copy of the resolution to C. Samadio, who made the request and who is part or the senior member of the Amadio family with the campground out there.
We can do that for sure. So we'll first call the vote for the in-camera matters. All those in favor? Okay, that's approved. And motion by Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Iannoni, that we send a letter to C. Samadio, letting him know the outcome of the Oakwood Drive speed review. Okay, we'll call all those in favor. All right, that's unanimous as well. We have a resolution on the floor here regarding Centennial Square for proposed concert series.
Was that last motion for the whole consent agenda?
Should be, yeah.
Yes.
That should be included.
Yeah.
The resolutions to be under the consent agenda? You
No,
see just...
no, Councillor Thompson.
Oh, Councillor Thompson is to be part of the consent agendas. That's right. Not just that one for Mr. Mario. Okay. Yes, it was. So we have a resolution here for Centennial Square with the concert series. Moved by Councillor Pietrangelo, seconded by Councillor Maves. All those in favor? Okay, that's approved. All right. Moved by Councillor Pietrangelo, seconded by Councillor Maves for a motion to introduce the bylaws for a first reading. All those in favor? Okay, it's approved.
Bylaws 2013-94 to 2013-104 read a first time.
Okay, moved by Councillor Pietrangelo, seconded by Councillor Maves that the bylaws be given a second and third reading. All those in favor? Okay, and that's unanimous.
Bylaws 2013-94 to 2013-104 read a second and third time and passed.
Okay, we have new business. Councillor Gates.
Actually, I wanted to ask a question about the bylaw, but I kept throwing my hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were away from
Anyways, 2013-100, I'd just like to ask a question to staff on the phasing in.
Warm Woods.
The Warm Woods. I just want to know if there's any phasing in of the development, is there any loss to the city?
Who would that be? Mr. Holman? You want to address that?
The short answer is no. In fact, we'll actually be collecting additional development charges because the bylaw allows us to index them effective the 1st of September.
So it's subject to inflation, right? Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay, thank you.
What's spelled out in the report?
Okay. Any other new business? Oh, motion for adjournment by Councillor Maves. Oh, second by Councillor Pietrangelo.
I got new business.
Oh, you have new business. Oh, okay. Councillor Pietrangelo.
It's early, Your Worship, it's early.
It is. Take your time.
Your Worship, my first question was just in regards to the OLT contract. Have we heard anything back, and when is council going to have a discussion on it?
Mr. Harrison?
I had an email from the representative from OLG, and the contract is not finalized yet, and so we have not received anything that we can act upon yet. It's anticipated that they'll be finalizing it by the end of next week, and then we would be sitting down with them to work through that agreement.
Okay. And obviously, we're not going to have a discussion on it until the contract is finalized. Yeah. Okay.
I should point out, though, I have been approached and approached by the chief of police and the chair of the police services board. They were very anxious to have a discussion with us already, and I explained to them we don't even have an agreement yet. You know,
right.
They're very anxious to have a discussion. Okay.
Your Worship, second issue I had was in regards to impact, and I think Councillor Thompson originally brought this up, and it just deals with residential buildings, Your Worship, that are in the tourist core, and these buildings are being let go. A lot of them are derelict at this point, and if the landowner tears the building down, then the zoning on the land changes so that it becomes tourist commercial. The taxes go way up, and so that's why the buildings are left there. And I think the last motion that was brought to council was that a resolution be sent to MPAC asking them to give different consideration to these buildings. I was wondering, Your Worship, did we hear back anything from MPAC yet?
We'll get the clerk to give us an update on that.
Sent the resolution yet.
You didn't send it?
Well, let's get the clerk to get back, fill us in. What's the status?
No, the resolution would have to come to you to be approved. It's been a source of debate amongst senior staff. We had a most recent debate about it last week, and I've been tasked to prepare the resolution, so hopefully it could be next meeting if I put pen to paper.
So, Your Worship, what I was going to ask was whether or not it would be worthwhile to have a representative from MPAC actually come to Niagara Falls to view these buildings in relation to where they are in the tourist core. I think it would be beneficial for an assessment officer from MPAC to come down and actually look at some of these properties and where they are, and the fact that they're situated in between buildings that are so valuable. And I mean, I don't think it's just the owner's problem. I think it's the city's problem in the sense that aesthetically it's unpleasing. So I don't know if a resolution is all that we should do. My thinking is perhaps we should have someone from MPAC here, have a public open house, at least allow landowners the opportunity to come forward and tell an assessment officer how they feel about these properties.
It's ironic you say this. I drive by the other day, my own kids said to me, why do they got such old buildings there? My own kids. And it's a complicated answer, but maybe our CEO can...
Well, and the clerk's right. We've really had some lengthy discussions at our senior management meetings about what's the way to attack this. So we will have a report for you next meeting. I think we can have a bigger debate on that with the resolution. I guess our concern is that with the resolution, that may take some time to get action at the provincial level, and there may be other things that we need to do locally. I think perhaps we could wait before we try to get an MPAC person down here to have that debate at the next meeting and see where we want to go. And if that results in inviting somebody, we'll do that. But I think we have some other suggestions that we might run by you at that meeting.
Okay. That's right. Yep. Councillor Carrier and then Thompson.
Wouldn't it make sense that
the tax wouldn't change until the use changed. So even, so until they come in and made an application to change the use, even if it's for parking or whatever, that it should be taxed at the old system or the old rate until the use changed.
Well, without getting into the debate for the report to come, but that essentially is what the resolution will be saying.
That makes
But-
sense.
But just so you understand, that goes up to the provincial level. That's a province-wide change. That's going to take
It's
some...
hard to believe that they would do something that makes sense, but I'm hoping they do.
Any other new business? Councillor Thompson?
No, not new business, but even part of that is the fact that the assessment on some of these properties, old properties that are derelict, is highly excessive. Frank Greco, who was here on numerous occasions over the past couple of years, had a little wee tiny piece of property, derelict house. He tore it down, and the assessment of a vacant piece of property, which was all blocked off with large stones, rocks, was $294,000. He finally got frustrated with us trying to do something about this and appealing it several times, and he finally sold the property for $100,000. The other one is Mr. Pat Remuno, who is on Kitchener Street, has a similar piece of property that is zoned tourist commercial, and he can't sell it, and the taxes on that property are so excessive, it's affecting him financially and a real hardship for him. So those are two names. Maybe we could include that as part of the report, the excessive assessment on these properties, which when they're sold are nowhere near, and it's on record what they're sold for.
Councillor?
Yeah, Your Worship, and just to follow up, I think if we actually had an assessment officer from MPAC come down here and we had an open house, we would get two types of people show up. We would get people that actually own these homes to tell the assessment officer, listen, you know, if I take this home down, my taxes shouldn't go through the roof. And you would probably have neighboring property owners as well there to support them, to say, listen, let these people take the homes down because aesthetically it's very unpleasing and I have a business to run.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, the issue is, though, if we were to have that discussion, it would have to be somebody very, very high up in MPAC, because a officer from here, all he can do is quote the legislation and be sympathetic. So once we have that debate, if we invite somebody, it's going to have to be somebody at the VP level out of Toronto office and have them down here to hear further discussion. So having anybody local or a local assessor come would really do us no good at all to do that.
Maybe even we extend the invite to the chair of MPAC, who's the mayor of Stratford, and we can bring him down here and maybe take him for a drive and show him the situation.
Sure.
So why don't we pursue that too? That's probably not a bad approach. Okay, we'll do that.
Will that come back in the report then, Your Worship?
Yeah, I don't have to wait for that to contact him.
Doesn't all cities have the same problem?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, what city wouldn't agree with this direction?
Why
Right.
not bring it up in Hamo or something? Doesn't everyone have the same problem?
It's a good point.
That's a very good point.
It's not like we do. We're unique in the fact that we zone these properties, this entire area as tourist commercial. And so then they became old properties, they became investment opportunities for people to try to make a lot of money. It hasn't worked out.
Provincially regulated.
Yes, Councillor.
Next issue?
Sure.
Okay. Last one, Your Worship. Last one. Your Worship, I know you sent everyone an email last week that the record of site condition has been filed with the Ministry of the Environment. So I did get a copy of the record of site condition, and I read through it. Now, initially, Your Worship, I thought that we were asking SciTech to apply for a record of site condition simply to build the road extension from Throwstone into the Gale Center. Am I correct in that?
That's the way I understand it, Mr. CAO.
Well, that's what we wanted to see. What SciTech, in fact, did is they took it one step further, and they did a record of site condition for everything, I guess easily to say south, no.
Yeah,
south of where the road would be. towards the Gale Center and to the east and west of the Gale Center. So they took it one step further, which meant they only had to go through that record of site condition process once. So for them, it made sense to do it all at once rather than just do a 66-foot piece of right-of-way through. So once that process is completed, the record of site condition will apply to the entire property south of that road allowance.
Well, that's the one thing I was going to mention, Your Worship, is the fact that when I read the record of site condition, it was applied for 17.6 hectares, which works out to be about 42 acres, which would be about half of the SciTech site. I'm not sure, I mean, if that's part of what the holdup was in sort of actually getting to this point where the record of site condition was actually filed. I know for us, we were concerned with the road.
Yeah, I don't believe that the fact that they took in more land held it up any longer.
Good.
Because it was the same process they had to go through, the same length of time. It just incorporated a greater amount of land. So from our perspective, I don't believe that was a reason for the delay. There were other sort of process issues that may have delayed it, but I don't think the magnitude of the land delayed it.
Okay. And I'm happy to say, Your Worship, that it is a good move to actually apply for the record of site condition for the entire south of the lands, because then at least the city can benefit if any of it gets developed. So, Your Worship, I just want to be clear. SciTech right now is applying to the Ministry of the Environment for the rights to declare the south portion of the lands developable, and that includes the road that we want, the extension from Thurlstone into the Gale Center.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. What the record of site condition is doing, there was a once the ministry approves or grants that certificate of there was a certificate of property use which was applied for by SciTech, and now the record of site condition, and that record of site condition and the certificate of property use outline, lack of words, the conditions under which construction will take place on that property. So it lays out all of the ground rules, and so once that appeal period or commenting period is over and they issue that record of site condition, then the development rules are set in place as to what has to happen for development to proceed on the site.
Okay. And I did read the letter that came back from the Ministry of the Environment, I guess to SciTech, and Your Worship, it said that the record of site condition was accepted on June 4th, and that they would render their decision by July 17th. So July 17th, I guess, is our target date to be looking ahead to something positive happening here with the record of site condition. And I just wanted to ask, at that point, SciTech owns the land. Would they then transfer the land to the region? The region is going to be the one that's going to be owning the land at that point because they're going to build the road?
Well, SciTech has indicated to us, Mr. Holman and I and the mayor have been in meetings, and they've indicated that they will transfer that road over to the region. There's one other step here where there is a leaseholder involved, and the leaseholder has to sign off on that as well. So that's another part of the process that we have to go through.
Okay. And I guess, I mean, has the city, as a partner to this, with the regional staff, got together with SciTech and the leaseholder to determine whether or not, once this record of site condition is completed and the lands are transferred to the ownership of the region, the person that is leasing the land will let the road go through? Have we determined that at all?
We've had, we've had those discussions, and maybe Mr. Holman could give more detail, but the issue that we had was that the region still has some concerns over the methodology by which the development of that road will take place. So we're still working our way through that.
Okay, I guess
Mr. Holman can maybe provide a little bit more information.
Through the mayor, just to elaborate, we've asked the region's consultant to provide us with cost estimates for two types of construction. One is to completely clean up the right-of-way, and the other is just to clean up the
envelope where the services are going to be located. And we expect to have those estimates within the next couple of days. And then that'll help us then as we start to negotiate with the lessee for acquisition of that land, and also give us another option if the region is not prepared to proceed, that we'll know what the accurate cost estimates are in case the city would like to go ahead on their own.
Okay. Your Worship, I think Mr. Holman just basically answered my question, and my question was going to be, are we having ongoing discussions with the region to make sure that, and our target date now, as the MOE has stated in their letter, is July 17th, to know that by July 17th we have all our I's dotted and all our T's crossed. And it sounds to me, as Mr. Holman just stated, as there is going to be an ongoing meeting. The last question on this, Your Worship, has to do with our regional representatives. Because it is, because the lands are going to be owned by the region, would you know whether or not there's going to be an opportunity for it to be voted on at the region? And if so, would it not be prudent to get our regional representatives to come down here and have a meeting with them to discuss everything basically that we know about it and everything that they should know about it?
I don't think there's any downside to having them involved, absolutely. And at the region, we've already approved the funding, so they've already been involved in that way. We just haven't known when the date was going to be. And the CAO and myself as well, we're meeting with the lessee, and we're trying to get everything ironed out. So like you say, after the 17th, we're in a better position to move forward. We don't want to wait until then to start. So we're, there's a lot of pieces, a lot of moving pieces to this, but we're trying to manage them all.
I know the funding has been approved, Your Worship. It just it worries me a little bit that the region is not saying emphatically that they are going to assume ownership of the lands. I think, to me, I would much rather hear them say that yes, once the record of site condition is cleared, we will be assuming ownership of the lands and we will be constructing the road. That, to me, would be preferable. And this way I know that at the deadline date, which is July 17th, provided that the Ministry of the Environment clears the record of site condition, then they can start construction. So if we can get to that point ahead of time and the region can give us their assurance that they will declare or that they will assume responsibility of the road, I'd be much happier.
We would too.
If that involves, Your Worship, asking our regional reps to come down and meet with council so that we can share with them everything that we know from a city perspective, as opposed to the information that they're being given at the region, then I would be happy to invite them down here so that we can do that.
Okay. Good on that one? Yes, Councillor Mays and Councillor Thompson.
Your Worship, while we're on that subject, just a thought. I think the purpose of us getting the road is to try and get some relief for the people on 4th Avenue.
Yeah.
If that road ends at the arena, I can see an awful lot of traffic. It won't relieve anything on 4th Avenue simply because the people who normally go up Stanley Avenue make a left down Bridge Street. They're going to keep right on going down to the arena, make their right turn at 4th Avenue, and make the left at Bridge down there. So I don't know whether that's going to relieve much traffic for the people on 4th Avenue unless we put that road right through. I'm wondering how soon we can get the road right through down to the corner of Victoria Avenue. Because I see a big traffic problem there anyway for 4th Avenue, no matter what we do.
Well, through you, Mr. Mayor, that again would be a regional road, and it's my understanding that the second phase, which would be sort of from 4th to Victoria, and I think there are plans for a roundabout kind of turning thing at Victoria. I don't even believe that's in their 10-year plan. So I don't think they see that more than 10 years out.
So I don't see much relief for the people on 4th Avenue then, if that's going to be the case, because as I say, they're going to keep straight on Thorold Stone Road down to 4th and make their right turn there and then on the bridge.
Well, there's perhaps some design things that could be looked at to help minimize that as we go along.
Certainly hope so.
Councillor Thompson?
I just have a couple of questions regarding the access in there across the SciTech lands. Is somebody suggesting that July 17th that there's going to be approvals in place, an agreement with all the parties to put this roadway in?
No.
Well, that's what I'm hearing, and I always like to deal with things that are going to happen in my lifetime.
Well, if I may,
And I
Mr.
don't think this is one of them.
I think what we're hearing is that in that July timeframe, the environmental approvals through Ministry of Environment will be done, and then we'll have the process of finalizing things with the region and working there. But that's what that date is the record of
Have you had any
citation.
discussions with SciTech, with the lessee, and what's going on there?
Yes, the mayor and I and Mr. Holman and the regional staff have met on 2 or 3 occasions.
With?
All of those parties.
Together?
Yes, actually the mayor and Mr. Filicetti went down to New Jersey with that same group.
Yeah, with the lessee?
Yeah.
Yes.
He was at that meeting?
Yeah,
Yes,
and we met at SciTech in New Jersey.
Yeah.
So it's moving along, but we still have a lot of work to do.
There's a lot of problems.
Yes, Councillor?
Just for clarification, what I did mention is the fact that the record of site condition was filed by SciTech on June 4th to the Ministry of the Environment. Ministry of the Environment then sent a letter back to SciTech acknowledging receipt of the record of site condition and saying in their letter, which I have a copy of and Mr. Holman forwarded it to me, thank you, that they would render their decision by July 17th. So July 17th, we can at least expect to hear from the Ministry of the Environment whether or not the record of site condition is clear. That's the date that I threw out to your worship. That comes from the Ministry of the Environment.
And without that, there no shovel goes in the ground. So, I mean, that's the first step before we can do anything. And then SciTech's already made it clear they do intend to convey the land. And now we just need to work out, obviously with the lessees, that last piece of the puzzle that we need to work out. Yes, Councillor?
Yeah, and that's why I say, your worship, I mean, if we know that by July 17th, the Ministry of the Environment is going to be rendering their decision, then that's the date that we need to work towards. That's why I wanted to know from Mr. Todd and Mr. Holman whether or not we were having ongoing meetings, and it sounds like we are, your worship.
We are. We're still meeting. Okay, motion for adjournment? Oh, Councillor Gates. Had all this time to think, right?
Oh, no, they're going back and forth. First of all, I just want to say that sometimes when you get asked to represent your fellow councilors and our mayor in the city, you get lucky in one of those things. And you touched a little bit on the challenge of the women's wrestling.
Yeah, I want to hear more about that.
Well, and you know what? It's bigger than that. Wrestling's been an Olympic sport since 1896. And they chose Niagara Falls because they're trying to highlight the fact that the IOC wants to take Olympic wrestling out of the Olympics. It makes absolutely no sense. It's been, like I said, I think the second or third Olympics was when wrestling came in 1896. We have absolutely incredible wrestlers, not just the females, but the men as well. I think we're probably 1 or 2 in the world when it comes to wrestling. This particular night, they had the USA was there, Ukraine was there, and the Canadian women were there. The venue was outstanding. There was a very, very good crowd. I would say several hundred, maybe close to 1,000 people took in the event. The staff did a good job on building the rink up. The sound system was good. They kind of brought it in like the WWF a bit with the flags. They really hyped it up. But the real message is that there is no way that they should be taking Olympic wrestling out of the Olympics. Here in Niagara, a lot of people might not know, but we have probably some of the best wrestlers in the world right here in Niagara, particularly through the Brock University program. Not only the Olympians, they're world champions. Some have won gold medals, some have won silver medals, some have won bronze medals. So I'd like to put a motion forward tonight that as a council and the City of Niagara Falls, that we support the Canadian Olympic team in their quest to keep the Olympic flag running and going forward, that they keep wrestling into the Olympics. So hopefully if I can get a seconder for that as well. And I thank you for giving me the opportunity to go that night.
Okay. Okay, so we've got a motion here by Councillor Gates, second by Councillor Carrio. And we're going to send this letter to, is this to the IOC? Or
I'm going to take the IOC and then obviously copy in the Canadian Olympic as well.
Yep, the wrestling, and then probably Brock would be interested to know about it. Marty Calder, yeah. Tanya Verbeek.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got the motion. We'll call the vote. All those in favor? Okay, and that was easily unanimous. Nope.